Imagine waking up in a reality where video games literally swallow the earth whole. Every girl in the academy is already fighting over which overpowered main character they want to date, all because 100 years ago, terrifying boss monsters shattered the barrier between dimensions and invaded our timeline to avoid total extinction. Humanity was forced to awaken magical combat classes just to survive. We are talking grinding dungeon, evolving classes, and leveling up like your life depends on it. Because if you slack off, you get permanently deleted from existence. In a ruthless era like this, prodigies are not just high school heartthrobs, they are literally the only hope mankind has left. Enter our boy Zhongli. Ever since this absolute legend transmigrated into this universe 18 years ago, he has been flawlessly speedrunning every single academic milestone. His status window literally looks like a hacked server, boasting god-tier ratings across every single combat category. You see, the class you unlock dictates your entire destiny. Pulling a basic class makes you a useless, non-playable character, but awakening a hidden class turns you into an unstoppable force of nature. His homeroom instructor is practically betting his entire career on this prodigy, swearing that Zhongli possesses limitless potential. But here it is, the brutal reality of being at the top. Every single insecure Burmese district wants to drag you down to their level. Cue the entrance of this walking protein shake named Chuo. Blessed with a golden domain bloodline and a wealth top-tier hunter for a father, he still completely loses to Zhongli in absolutely every metric. Our main character stays completely unbothered, casually admitting he has not even picked a dream class yet. Naturally, Chuo loses his mind, violently grabbing Zhongli by his collar. He venomously promises to destroy his rival's reputation if he awakens a trash-tier role. But Zhongli does not even flinch. He simply commands, "Let go." And the sheer, icy bloodlust in his eyes freezes the bully faster than any ice magic ever could. The terrified rich kid immediately backs off. But do not forget this clash, because this bitter rivalry is about to explode. You have to understand how brutal this society is. If a hyped-up prodigy botches their awakening ceremony, they do not just fall from grace, they become the entire academy's favorite punching bag. The fated ceremony finally begins, and the very first student on the platform completely chokes under the immense pressure. The gorgeous examiner, rocking an outfit that is practically blinding half the male student body, ruthlessly dismisses the failure and summons the next candidate. Suddenly a blinding wave of emerald aura completely engulfs the stadium. Yuan emerges from the light, successfully unlocking the advanced swift archer class. And let me tell you, the glowing blonde hair, the magical bow, that overwhelming presence, the audience absolutely loses their minds over the undisputed queen of the school. She is proving exactly why she sits at the top of the food chain. The next name drops, crimson light erupts, and Yanzu actually manages to secure the advanced flame mage class. Yet this arrogant clown has the pure audacity to sigh in disappointment. Securing 2 high-tier awakenings in a row is insane. But this rich kid is already bragging about conquering the entire realm. He shoots a venomous glare straight at Zhongli and scoffs, "Hard work is a complete joke. True power is locked in your genetics." Finally the examiner calls the name everyone has been waiting for. Zhongli steps forward, radiating an intense aura, like his entire existence was forged for this singular moment. Every elite judge leans in, and his mentor is gripping a clipboard so hard his knuckles are turning white. The second his boots hit the magical platform, the atmospheric pressure heavily drops, and the entire stage absolutely erupts in blinding energy. Mystical runes spiral into the sky, flooding the stadium with a supreme aura that normally only exists in legends. Instructors literally jump out of their seats in pure shock. Documents scatter across the floor as the sheer shockwave of his awakening paralyzes the crowd. His homeroom mentor is visibly trembling, desperately praying for a mythic tier class that has been lost to time. But the system reveals basic mage, the ultimate trash tier class. The pathetic role you receive when the universe completely abandons you. The terrifying silence is deafening as the elite panel of judges stares in absolute horror. Nobody can comprehend how the greatest prodigy of their generation just pulled the weakest job in history. And you already know exactly who steps up to pour salt in the wound. Yanzu bursts into maniacal laughter, like he just claimed a major victory. In a blink of an eye, the ruthless student body completely strips away Zhongli's king status. The entire crowd instantly pivots, desperately flocking to worship Yuan like she is a literal goddess. Meanwhile, Zhongli stood completely frozen on the stage. The same peers who worshipped him yesterday are now brutally tearing his reputation to shreds. For sport, the fallen king slowly walks down the aisle in utter isolation, the mocking whispers slicing through his pride like poison daggers swallowed by the shadows. He clenches his fists. Is this really my fate? Did 18 years of blood, sweat, and tears just amount to absolute garbage? But then a fierce spark ignites deep within his pupils. The iconic chime of the system rings out, dropping a golden notification that is about to shatter reality. Mythic passive unlocked, all learned skills automatically evolve to maximum level. A boy stares at the glowing blue screen in total disbelief. Hold on. This defies every known law of magic. Did the universe grant me this game-breaking cheat code because I am a literal reincarnated soul? He frantically opens his interface to find 3 pathetic starter abilities. But wait, they are sitting at level 1 fireball. Light armor and meditation, the absolute saddest starter pack a bottom-tier mage could possibly equip. But before he can even blink, the experience bars start aggressively surging on their own level 5. Level 7, shooting up like a hacked account on an admin server. He watches the impossible happen right in front of him, his mind struggling to process this god-tier awakening. Every single progression bar is overflowing with blinding light, as all 3 pathetic spells rocket toward the ultimate level cap simultaneously. Max level achieved. Suddenly, a vital lesson from his old mentor echoes in his mind. When you first awaken, your baseline spells are practically useless, but as you push them past their limits, the damage multiplier does not just add up, it scales exponentially into apocalyptic levels. But here is the terrifying catch. Organically maxing out a skill takes decades of brutal grinding, and literally 0 players on the server have ever maxed all 3 stats. Yet this absolute legend just unlocked them for free, flashing a smirk that screams he knows exactly how ridiculously broken his new reality is. Standing there, it hits him. Having automax skills on a starter mage is infinitely more overpowered than unlocking some ultra-rare, hidden class. Destiny did not just give him a consolation prize, it handed him the ultimate cheat code. But before he can even mentally celebrate his victory, his instructor runs up and grips his shoulder. The headmaster starts dropping a super emotional pep talk, preaching about how even the most basic class holds infinite potential and assuring him the entire faculty still has his back. Meanwhile, Jiangli, who literally just activated God mode 30 seconds prior, flashes a humble smile. Thank you, headmaster. I promise to keep grinding. Give this guy an Oscar for his acting. Because the headmaster walks away with actual tears in his eyes. Little does he know Zhongli is hiding the most glitchy, game-breaking talent in human history right under his hoodie back in the crowd. The haters are absolutely feasting on his supposed downfall, acting like it is the greatest moment of their entire semester, because apparently watching a prodigy hit rock bottom is way more entertaining than watching one rise. But John Lee is already plotting his revenge, thinking, go ahead, keep laughing your heads off. I'm about to shatter every single one of your expectations. Now this is where the plot actually thickens. The scene shifts to the combat testing grounds, where the newly awakened rookies get to flex their brand new skills. And guess who is hogging the spotlight? Yan Shui summons a sphere of pure fire. So massive it looks straight out of an anime climax. He launches it directly at the training dummy, absolutely baptizing the target in a blazing inferno. His personal fan club instantly starts hyping him up like he just saved the entire universe. But then this arrogant meathead spots Jean Lai casually strolling past. You can literally watch his bully instincts boot up in real time. He barks out, hey, look who it is. Our very own ordinary mage, radiating the exact energy of a guy who peaked in middle school and desperately needs attention. This absolute menace chucks a blazing wall of fire just to block his path, screaming that he is talking to him. Jiangli barely even turns his head. He just sighs and mutters, what do you want? Yanshu aggressively flexes next to his scorched target, challenging our fallen genius to demonstrate what a pathetic basic mage can actually achieve. Jiangli just waves him away, stating coldly, hard pass. I do not need target practice when I have already mastered my skills. The sheer aura of disrespect on this man is legendary. Yanshu instantly snaps, it's right, in his personal space, and starts foaming at the mouth about how he dares to disrespect an elite, advanced flame mage. He grabs Zhongli by the hair and calls him a coward, which for the record is the absolute most fatal mistake this clown could have made in his entire life. Because Jiangli decides playtime is officially over, he casually summons a fireball meant to send this bully straight into the stratosphere. And Yanshua, who is about to be cooked well done, actually has the nerve to laugh. A basic fireball, he mocks. But then the actual spell makes contact, brother. This is not magic, it is a localized natural disaster. The blazing shockwave swallows the entire combat zone. Yanshu and his pathetic little squad get violently ragdolled across the dirt by a beginner-level spell. The sheer irony of the situation is absolutely poetic. The whole training field erupts in a massive chain reaction that definitely just triggered the local earthquake sensors. Every single reinforced dummy on the range is instantly reduced to a pile of ash. And remember, those things were engineered to tank hits from elite veterans. Yanshui is left shivering in the crater, His entire reality is shattering to pieces, because a basic class should never possess this kind of terrifying firepower. Meanwhile, Zhongli casually walks away from the blazing inferno, like it is just another Tuesday, leaving Anjua screaming into the void about how an ordinary mate could never pull off a stunt like that. Hands down, that is the most ruthless mic drop exit we have witnessed yet. Fast forward, our overpowered main character finally gets back home. He immediately starts calculating his magic reserves, because dropping that tactical nuke at the academy completely drained 50 of his mana bar in a single strike. But before he can even collapse on the couch, he gets hit with the ultimate parental guilt trip. How dare you sneak into the house without saying a word? His mom steps into the frame, and guys, I need a serious time out here, because the studio illustrator went absolutely crazy designing a mom who looks this flawless. He eventually sits down at the dining table and casually drops the bomb that he awakened the mage class today, acting completely normal, as if he is not secretly the most lethal starter tier monster walking the earth right now. His mom instantly lights up with joy, happily claiming that mages are amazing because they get to stay perfectly safe in the backlines, which is hilariously adorable, considering her son's version of backline support is literally wiping the entire map from existence. But suddenly she pauses mid-bite. Her expression shifts as she says, "Oh wait, I have a special gift for you." Ji Young Lee freezes with his chopsticks hovering in the air. What is it now, he wonders. She pulls out a heavily sealed lockbox, revealing that it was left behind by his father, a man who is apparently an ultra-powerful awakened professional. Hold the phone, because that is a massive plot twist. Young Lee practically chokes on his dinner. His entire life she fed him the tragic backstory that his dad passed away before he took his first breath, and now she is just casually dropping his name over a bowl of rice. He immediately starts interrogating her if his old man was such a legendary beast. Where has he been hiding this entire time? Why did he ghost his own family for 18 long years without dropping a single message? She simply looks down and whispers he had to travel to the very edge of the world to settle a matter of life and death, which, let us be completely honest, is hands down the most classic deadbeat anime dad excuse in the history of fiction. But she desperately pleads with him not to hate the man, because supposedly that mystery man swore he would turn Zhongli into a mage. That is the exact reason his mother relentlessly pushed him down the path of magic his entire life. Suddenly, tears spill down her cheeks, sobbing about how her little boy has finally grown up and awakened his powers. And I swear on my life, if this webtoon actually makes me catch feelings over a tragic backstory, I am throwing hands with the author. She hurriedly wipes her eyes and softly tells him to take the mysterious box to his room, whispering that mom is just exhausted. John Lee just watches her retreating back, the heavy realization hitting him that she has been carrying this crushing secret all by herself for years. Cut to our main character standing in his bedroom, deadlocked in a staring contest with this cryptic box from a father he barely knew. He is racking his brain trying to decode what kind of guy leaves his family a parting gift instead of actually sticking around. He cracks the seal, and an absolutely blinding golden light erupts across the entire room, looking exactly like he just popped open a mythic rarity chest after clearing the final boss dungeon. The color completely drains from his face, because the treasure sitting inside this box is leagues beyond anything a regular human should ever lay eyes on. We are looking at a literal profession change scroll that forcefully evolves a standard mage into a legendary hidden class called an archist. But there is a brutal catch. The system requires him to hit gold rank first, and honestly this single piece of parchment might just be the most insanely overpowered artifact we have seen in this entire series. Cold sweat drips down Zhongli's face. He knows damn well that a scroll granting a hidden profession is basically a Viet ticket to godhood, and his only roadblock is surviving the grind to gold rank. Now let me break down the power scaling of this universe. You start at normal, then grind through iron, bronze, silver, and hit gold. Above that sits the untouchable holy domain, and finally the absolute peak demigod. But wait, his dad was supposedly just a gold tier scrub, which is elite but not legendary. John Lee's brain is working overtime. There is absolutely zero chance a mid-tier gold professional could casually bat an artifact this ridiculously rare. So either his mom had been capping about his dad's rank, or his old man was a monster far more terrifying than anyone realized. Slamming his fist on the desk, our boy locks in his game plan. The mission is crystal clear. Speedrun his way to gold tier before the massive professional trial kicks off in Jean City in exactly 7 days, because our absolute madman does not believe in touching grass or pacing himself. The very next scene shows him marching straight out of the city gates, heading directly into the lethal wilderness. Instantly, some random armor clown starts running his mouth, talking mad trash about clueless newbies rushing out to become monster chow. One background character actually speculates if our boy might be hiding some overpowered secret character class, and honestly, that random guess is astronomically closer to the truth than those losers could ever comprehend. But his cynical buddy instantly shoots the theory down, sneering, "Just look at his scrawny build. He is obviously just another trash tier regular mage." But right as these bottom feeders finish throwing shade, a breathtaking redhead officially steps into the frame. She casually grabs our boy by the shoulder and smirks, "Hey there, little brother. And listen to me very carefully. When the cinematic camera pans up for her full character reveal, I need every single one of you to understand that the studio animators drew this woman with the explicit intention of ending our moral lives. Because the gorgeous Vivi is packing a massive broadsword and radiating enough raw main character energy to make me completely forget every other waifu I have ever worshipped." However, her two absolutely brain-dead teammates instantly start crying about how they absolutely refuse to carry dead weight on their hardcore mission. They literally call Zhongli a walking liability. Straight to his face, Vivi immediately snaps back, furiously asking, "Wait, they always act like such toxic elitists," and honestly, watching her defend a total stranger while looking like a literal goddess is making her a genuine hazard to my mental health. But our gloriously oblivious idiot just gives her a polite smile and says thanks for the carry offer, but I will be grinding this film solo. Which honestly has to be either the most ungodly confident or the most tragical suicidal flex a freshly awakened level 1 mage could ever utter. Vivi is absolutely not letting him walk into the meat grinder alone, sprinting after him and screaming, "Wait." Zhongli casually spins around, projecting the sheer, unfiltered energy of a man who has absolutely zero clue that he is currently being babysat by a certified 10 out of 10 masterpiece. She desperately shoves a glowing mana potion into his hands, gently saying, "Since you are playing a mage class, you are definitely going to need this juice out in the wild." And she's doing all of this out of pure, unadulterated sweetness, a level of kindness that I frankly do not even deserve to witness. Zhongli accepts the potion with a massive, goofy grin and casually thanks her, remaining painfully oblivious to the fact that he just casually friends on the absolute best thing that has happened to his life today. Vivi playfully waves goodbye with a dazzling smile, a smile that the artist clearly weaponized as a personal attack on my heart rate. She tells him to stay safe out there before gracefully turning away. Boom scene transition to the ominous gray forest, and the very first mob he encounters is a beefed up, level 4 alpha goblin, and let me tell you, this absolute unit is built like it has been aggressively deadlifting giant redwood trees since the day it was spawned. John Lee quietly peeks out from behind an ancient oak, coldly sizing up his hulking prey, and you can clearly see the absolute 0% panic in his eyes, which for a squishy brand new mage is nothing short of certifiably unhinged behavior. He calmly opens his palm, and a sinister crimson flame violently sparks to life, because in our protagonist's dictionary, the concept of subtlety was completely deleted. With a flick of his wrist, he sends a max-level overcharged fireball screaming through the dense forest, tearing through the air like a flaming comet. With a deeply personal vendetta, the goblin barely manages to twitch its massive club before the blast makes contact, hitting it dead center, and instantly starts deep frying this monstrous creature from the outside in. The beast is shrieking in pure agony, wildly swinging its weapon while being entirely swallowed alive by a hellfire that absolutely no starter zone level 4 mob was ever programmed to survive. The entire forest clearing violently detonates into a blinding wall of fire, creating an explosion so massive it probably just scared every single monster within a 5-mile radius into an early retirement. The smoke clears, and Zhongli is just casually standing over what used to be a terrifying alpha goblin, but is now literally just a smoldering campfire. Our boy just casually one-shot a level 4 elite mob, using a maxed out starter spell, and the real leveling grind has not even officially started yet. But the exact second that charred goblin carcass hits the dirt, the leaves start rustling violently in every single direction. Because from the shadows, an entire bloodthirsty squad of goblins emerges. A massive green tide floods out from the tree line, because apparently dropping a literal sun was just ringing the dinner bell for every single monster in the forest. But does our unhinged main character break a sweat? Absolutely not. He just smirks and says, "Perfect. This saves me the hassle of hunting you down one by one." A hulking green brute sprints directly at him, screeching like an absolute demon. So Zhongli casually activates his radiant light armor, and the rusty blade deflects off that golden barrier like a plastic toy smacking into a titanium vault. The horde keeps wildly hacking away, but not a single strike leaves even a microscopic scratch, because dropping a maxed out defense skill on a level 1 mob is just pure, unfiltered disrespect. Then this absolute menace flashes a wicked grin, casually flicks his wrist, and whispers fireball is finally off cooldown. He violently drives the blazing sphere straight into the dirt, fully intending to buy these monsters a one-way ticket to the afterlife. The explosive shockwave vaporizes the entire squad in a single breath because Zhongli clearly missed the memo on holding back. Level 2 even he has to admit that using ultimate magic here is like dropping an atomic bomb on an anthill, especially when the experience yield barely covers his spent energy. So he marches deeper into the cursed woods, actively hunting for fresh prey. Meanwhile, a massive, ominous shadow tracks his every move from the canopy above. But Zhongli is entirely in a zone right now. He sparks up another blazing inferno in his palm and declares, "I do not care how many of you show up. Your fate is sealed." He violently snaps his fingers to unleash the blast, but abruptly freezes completely still because a catastrophic realization just hit him. Our so-called genius checks his energy reserves only to find the tank absolutely bone dry. 2 explosive spells and a single barrier completely drained him. It turns out his overpowered skills are guzzling magical energy like a sports car burning through gas. Fortunately, his golden barrier still has a tiny bit of juice remaining, so he decides to simply brawl with these creatures hand to hand and meditate to recharge afterward. Thus this absolute madman snatches a random heavy branch off the dirt and taunts the monster that they cannot pierce his defense regardless. He tightens his grip on the makeshift club, flashing a psychotic smile that absolutely does not belong on a magic user, and shouts, "Alright boys, it is playtime." He launches himself directly into the green horde, swinging that massive log like a major league slugger. Screaming, "Let me demonstrate the true path of a physical mage," he shatters a monster's skull with the unshakable confidence of someone who completely forgot the definition of fear. However, the damage counter that floats into the air reveals a brutally pathetic -10. The harsh reality of having 0 physical strength finally hits him way harder than he hit his enemy. Does he retreat? Not a chance in hell. Because chipping away 10 health points per swing eventually secures the kill, especially when the targets cannot even dent your aura. After grinding through what has to be the most agonizingly slow battle in gaming history, this stubborn guy eventually crushes them all and reaches level 3. He stands there panting, looking like he just sprinted a marathon while carrying a boulder dropping to the ground. He crunches the numbers, realizing his monopole only allows a single offensive strike before his tank hits 0. Relying on a heavy defense skill for every single encounter is making his leveling pace incredibly tragic. But right as he sits there deep in thought, a massive shadow plummets from the heavens with its weapons fully drawn. Zhongli instantly freezes in place because the terrifying aura radiating from the dense fog behind him completely dwarfs a normal monster, and those glowing crimson eyes multiplying in the shadows signal absolute disaster. Towering over him is a beast built like a literal tank, gripping a gigantic iron axe that probably weighs more than our main character's entire existence. The system notification flashes, confirming an elite boss has entered the chat. So how does this unhinged Gamma react? He simply grins and whispers, "Flawless timing," because boss tiers drop significantly. Juicier experience pools. That single fact is all the motivation he requires. He recklessly triggers his light armor with the terrifying energy of someone completely detached from the concept of mortality. The colossal brute stares down at him, glaring with the pure disrespect you give to an insect crawling across your food. Suddenly a wave of panic washes over Zhongli as his eyes dart toward his glowing system interface. His magical reserves are entirely depleted. His health bar is flashing red, and that final protective barrier just consumed the very last drop of his energy. Now he is locked in a death stare with a terrifying level 10 giant axe wielder, wielding 0 magic, 0 armor, holding a literal piece of wood, and fueled purely by the delusional confidence that dragged him into this mess. The hulking boss swings its massive weapon downward, with enough force to literally cleave the earth in 2. Zhongli barely manages to twitch out of the way. That lethal blade shatters the exact spot where a reckless hero stood. A millisecond prior, the explosive impact launches jagged debris through the air like deadly shrapnel. The towering monster flashes a victorious smirk, fully believing the fight is over, while Zhongli just stands there thinking, okay, this is a massive issue, considering even basic evasion drains stamina that this foolish mage completely lacks. The follow-up strike grazes him so violently it nearly shakes his soul out of his body, and right when the boss battle feels utterly hopeless, a standard minion ambushes him from the blind spot. He entirely forgot about the backup squad. Now the entire bloodthirsty mob is swarming him from all sides, yet this absolute comedian has the audacity to complain about being targeted simply because his magic tank ran dry. But rather than breaking down in pure terror, his brain shifts into tactical overdrive, narrowing his survival down to 3 choices. Option 1, forcefully meditate mid-battle to recover his magic. However, these monsters are absolutely not giving him a timeout, as another savage beast is already diving at his throat. Dodging a lethal swipe at his neck, he scrambles back. Option 1, yeah, that is officially deleted from the chat. Playing dead is a terrible idea when this entire forest views you as an all-you-can-eat buffet. That leaves option 2, downing his solitary mana potion. But that cheap blue juice barely fills a third of his gauge. We are talking one single fireball, one shot, zero margin for error. Then there is option 3, the logical choice: fall back, heal up, and live to grind another day. Any sane player would smash the retreat button, but this absolute menace looks at the safest row and says yeah, no. Running is for NPCs. Meanwhile, a goblin boss is literally bulldozing through the forest. Behind him is sweaty gamer Logic. If he waits 24 hours for his mana to naturally refill, some random might swoop in and steal his elite kill, and Jolie would rather meet the Grim Reaper than lose out on all that sweet experience. So this absolute madman chugs the potion mid-sprint. He is treating this like a world record speed run, watching his magical energy painfully crawl out of the red zone. But the towering axe-wielding freak refuses to let him buff up for free. A brutal shockwave blasts him off his feet, shattering the empty class file. The executioner raises his blade for the fatal strike, but suddenly freezes the massive weapon, just violently ricocheted off thin air. His light armor skill finally reboots. A brilliant golden hexagon flares to life around Jolie, making him look like an untouchable deity, even with his health pool literally 1 pixel wide. But brace yourselves, because the disrespect is about to reach legendary levels. This guy is doing rapid fire mental math, calculating the exact amount of mana his max level meditation can squeeze out before that barrier completely collapses. The entire goblin horde is unleashing a furious barrage on the glowing dome, and our protagonist casually calls this a calculated risk. Bro is acting like he is rolling dice in Vegas, not staring down the barrel of a game over screen. Then this absolute psycho simply sits down. He crosses his legs right in the center of the chaos, entering a zen state, while monstrous fists hammer his shield like a heavy metal drum solo. The alpha goblin is absolutely losing its mind, veins bulging, fangs bare, completely enraged that its midnight snack just took a timeout. A terrifying storm of attacks rains down on the barrier. The durability gauge is bleeding out way faster than his blue bar is recovering. Panic mode officially activated. Spiderweb cracks fracture the golden energy. His mana is barely at 50. And that shield health is flashing critical. The boss monster winds up for a devastating overhead swing, determined to turn his protection into pixelated dust. Boom! The golden dome shatters into 1,000 glowing fragments, yet Jolie snaps his eyes open, looking chillingly composed, for a guy who just lost his only safety net, because that magical gauge finally hit the sweet spot. His azure eyes glow with lethal intent, broadcasting one simple message: bingo. Then this absolute lunatic has the sheer audacity to smirk at the towering beast and whisper out of breath, already acting like he was not just cowering inside a crumbling fishbowl. 2 seconds ago my turn, he declares coldly. A scorching sphere of pure hellfire erupts from his palm. It is way too gigantic for a dude who just brushed death 6 times. He blasts it at point-blank range, delivering a catastrophic payload straight to the face. The roaring flames strike dead center on the critical weak spot, instantly turning the elite monster into a massive pile of deep-fried ash. A devastating shockwave of fire swallows every single minion in the blast radius. Because when it comes to the combat philosophy of Jolie, spectacular collateral damage is a guaranteed feature. A massive critical hit banner flashes across the system interface. Our guy is just casually standing in a blazing inferno, panting heavily like he just sprinted a marathon, covered in soot and goblin dust. He wipes his chin and mutters, "Too close." Talk about the understatement of the century. But then the glorious victory screen drops, and this lunatic skyrockets 4 entire ranks from one battle, hitting level 7 just off that solitary boss wipe. So obviously what is the very first thing he does? He marches right up to the smoking carcass to scavenge for drops, because the loot goblin mentality never sleeps. 2 pieces of black tear iron gear materialize, a pair of heavy gauntlets and reinforced boots. But instead of celebrating, Bro starts complaining, whining that his glass cannon build is still a risky game of one-shotting the enemy or instantly dying. He glares at his new loot, roasts the tragic aesthetic of the armor to its face, and decides to dump it at the auction house later. This man is fashion standards okay, still coated in monster residue. He crunches the stat numbers again. The tragic reality hits him. Even at rank 7, his mana pool still cannot support a 3 fireball combo. And endlessly farming low-tier trash is completely useless compared to hunting elites. Staring into the flickering campfire, he openly prays to the RNG gods for a budget-friendly area of effect skill, something that will not completely bankrupt his magical reserves. And 2 shots right on cue. A faint glow from the loot pile demands his attention. A legendary skill tome just chilling in the dirt, like the universe literally heard his complaint and dropped a miracle. Talk about premium same-day delivery. His eyes sparkle with absolute greed when he reads the description. Not only is it compatible, even a baseline novice can equip it, meaning his struggling mage build just received the ultimate care package. He furiously rips the cover open, Blinding, blue lightning violently arcs from the ancient pages before he even reads a single sentence. Pure blue, the electricity violently explodes from the ancient tome and surges straight into his veins. The system basically speedruns the ultimate skill download right into his literal brain. Say hello to arc lightning, a devastating area of effect spell that aggressively chains between enemies. It packs a massive paralysis debuff and takes only half a second to cast. But wait, here's the absolute best part. At max level, the mana cost is practically zero. Chun-Li is literally smiling like a total menace who just hit the jackpot. This absolute beauty scales perfectly with his current level, plus the built-in crowd control is exactly the missing puzzle piece his overpowered build desperately needed. Kinda hunt down some unlucky test dummies. He easily spots a massive goblin settlement with every single monster completely knocked out around a dying campfire. These clueless mobs have zero idea about the absolute nightmare rapidly approaching. Boom. Blinding lightning absolutely shreds through their base, launching green bodies straight into the midnight sky. It literally looks like someone shoved a giant fork into a heavy-duty power outlet. Since our boy absolutely refuses to fight fair, the surviving monsters snap awake, burning with furious rage. They frantically scramble for their rusty blades, completely bewildered by this sudden, catastrophic thunderstorm, striking right in the middle of a perfectly clear night. But this absolute madman is already channeling his next attack. He smirks, realizing one devastating strike just did not scratch the itch, acting like their survival is a massive personal insult. He unleashes another blinding blast instantly, because remember, this cheat skill takes less than a second to cast, and the cooldown timer is literally non-existent. Crackling blue energy violently pinballs between every single mob in sight. It is basically a glowing orb of pure, unadulterated deletion. The paralysis debuff completely locks their bodies in place. Sure, the raw damage per hit cannot compete with his iconic fireball. He totally admits that. But with this insane rapid fire speed, who honestly cares about base damage? Dropping 4 continuous lightning strikes cost the exact same mana as one single fireball. Faster casting and basically zero waiting. Plus he no longer needs to aggressively herd his targets into one tight death trap. This absolute genius finally realizes he just permanently fixed every single flaw in his combat style. Now he can infinitely farm lower tier mobs without draining his entire magic reserve after 2 pathetic attacks. So what is his next hyper-ambitious target? The legendary area boss reigning over the desolate Grey Forest is logic. If one elite monster boosted him 4 entire levels, then the zone ruler has to be a walking treasure chest. Surprisingly, our reckless hero actually uses his brain this time. He casually sits cross-legged under the pale moonlight, patiently restoring his mana core to absolute maximum capacity. Way better than blindly rushing toward a monstrous threat that could instantly one-shot him. This crazy guy eventually tracks down the main goblin triad. He intensely scans the perimeter like a hungry hawk, double-checking his target before bringing the absolute chaos. He silently creeps forward, gripping a basic wooden stick like it is some legendary divine weapon. He whispers to himself, wondering if the entire camp is completely knocked out. His masterclass strategy literally tiptoe right past a massive, heavily armed monster battalion, locate the sleeping boss, and absolutely nuke it with fireballs before a single guard blinks. But then this mastermind accidentally stomps right onto a sleeping goblin. The sheer panic flashing across his face is absolutely priceless. That is the exact moment he remembers he dumped 0 points into his agility stat, because his accidental footrest is now violently awake and incredibly furious about the heavy boot currently crushing its ugly green face. In a flash, a massive crimson-hide goblin guard shadows over him, glaring down with pure lethal intent, completely ready to execute this foolish midnight intruder. So naturally, our fearless protagonist Chun-Li handles this terrifying encounter with ultimate grace by immediately sprinting away like his life absolutely depends on it. Mid-panic, he fiercely grabs a random mob straight by the skull, screaming that his theory was totally right. He genuinely wanted to test their physical defense. But oh boy, that was a fatal miscalculation, because every single bloodthirsty goblin in a 1-mile radius heard that exact scream. The entire vicious tribe snaps wide awake, weapons drawn. They aggressively swarm toward this one delusional guy, and our guy is desperately sprinting for his literal survival, screaming pathetic apologies while loudly complaining about conserving his precious mana. He is quite literally multitasking his own mental breakdown. Swish, a rusted blade violently connects. Chun-Li takes a brutal blood-drawing slash directly across his spine. Since running in a perfectly straight line was his only genius evasion tactic, but that fresh pain flips a dangerous switch inside him. He halts. Pure crackling electricity surges into his bare palm. His eyes turn cold as he dares them to step up. Completely abandoning his cowardly apologies from literally 5 seconds ago, he fiercely unleashes the devastating arc lightning. The dark canopy violently erupts in blinding electric blue, Since Zhongli absolutely despises warning shots, the lethal current chains aggressively through the entire horde. Their crimson health bars literally melt into absolute nothingness. But the onslaught does not stop there. He viciously fires another blinding volley right away, because this rapid-fire cheat skill is a massive middle finger to basic game balance. He stands proudly amidst a smoking graveyard of totally fried monsters, audaciously complaining about being bullied, acting like he is the innocent victim in this massive massacre. But as he scans the twitching, charred remains, he realizes the legendary area boss is completely missing. Suddenly the earth beneath his boots violently trembles, like an ancient slumbering titan just woke up, choosing extreme violence. Aharafa. Suffocating shadow towers directly behind his spine. Zhongli nervously whispers about a random earthquake. Bro, that is no natural disaster. That is the terrifying zone ruler looming right over his shoulder, emitting a demonic glowing aura that screams absolute death. A presence that makes his overpowered monopole look like a total joke. But wait, the plot heavily thickens here. We instantly cut to a squad of arrogant players, deeply lost in the dark woods, loudly complaining that grinding in this midnight zone is pure suicide. Leading this pathetic circus is the ruthless Yan Quan, Yan Shu's bitter cousin, who specifically marched out here to brutally jump Zhongli in the dark. Because toxic family vengeance absolutely runs deep in their twisted bloodline, but even his most loyal lackey is intensely side-eyeing this terrible strategy, nervously questioning if their target is genuinely insane enough to still be grinding in this deadly zone. This late at night, Juan gets all up in his personal space with that signature villain glare, whispering, "Do you not trust me?" Yeah, massive red flag right there. Especially coming from a dude decked out in edge. Lord Spikes the lackey instantly crumbles, waving his hands frantically like he is begging for his life. He starts yapping about how elite mobs and area bosses will absolutely wipe out rookie players, but mid-sentence the earth literally starts quaking beneath their boots. Instantly the beef is forgotten. Quan's eyes gleam with absolute malice. Looking like a vulture who just spotted a free meal, he knows exactly what that tremor means. Some poor soul just aggroed the regional boss, and Quan is already doing the evil math. The big bad of this zone is the Goblin Shaman, a monster so cracked that a whole squad of Black Iron Awakeners would get wiped trying to take it down. So the strat is toxic but brilliant. Let the randoms do the heavy lifting, drain the boss's health bar, and then swoop in for the ultimate kill. Steal this absolute menace is speedrunning the villain playbook and grinning the whole time. Cut back to our boy Jiang Li, who is casually sizing up this exact same boss. He tilts his head, actually convincing himself this giant monster looks squishier than the elite mobs he just packed up. That is the exact brand of overconfidence that sends players straight to the respawn screen. The holographic system warning flashes neon red. Level 20 boss Goblin Shaman. This absolute madman is sitting at a measly level 7. Staring down a level 20 raid boss and genuinely thinks he has the upper hand. He casually whips up a blazing fireball and smirks, "Oh, so you are a magic user too?" Like they are networking at a tech convention. Instead of treating it like a monster trying to end his whole career, he sidesteps the shaman's attack and immediately roasts it, calling its cast time straight garbage. That is literally the most out-of-pocket disrespect you can throw at a fellow caster. His fireball slams home and the system UI explodes with a golden critical hit. The whole battlefield erupts into a blazing furnace, trapping the shaman right in the center of a devastating inferno. Then for a split second it honestly looks like Jiang Wei is about to one-shot his own boss while being 13 levels under-leveled. But suddenly a terrifying silhouette bursts out of the smoke, because real raid bosses do not just face tank fireballs. In full, Jiang Li hastily throws up a defensive barrier, gritting his teeth. I knew it was too easy. Because with his tragic RNG, it always is a level 5 frost arrow shatters his shield. Like cheap glasses, health drops so fast, the system panic alarms start throwing their own error codes. The shaman steps out of the fading embers, its demonic red eyes piercing through the ash as if saying, "Did you really think fire would be my weakness?" Worse, it just summoned 2 goblin priests. They flank the boss like heavy-duty bouncers, blocking the most lethal VIP section ever. The shaman immediately goes on the offensive, blasting through the tree line, while Zhongli is forced to haul out of there, because his entire combat loop literally swings between absolute menace and sprinting for his life. But then things get genuinely terrifying. The shaman casually lifts its staff, manifesting jagged ice crystals the size of broadswords. Without even breaking a sweat, it unleashes a massive crescent wave of frost magic, slicing right through the ancient trees, like it is trying to remodel the entire biome. Zhongli is pinned behind a massive trunk. Running the combat math in his head, he realizes that nasty cloak the boss wears grants massive magic resist, meaning his epic fire burst was getting heavily debuffed from the jump. He glances at his status screen, and the reality check is devastating. Health hovering at 1 hit point, mana pool practically drained, and phase 1 barely even started. Is he cooking up a master plan? Or is the universe just making him pay the ultimate price for being cocky, but instead of catching a panic attack, this absolute legend just narrows his eyes. He boldly attempts to meditate and regen mana before the boss tracks his location. Too bad the shaman is not playing by turn-based rules, because a barrage of glacial spears starts carpet bombing his exact coordinates. The lush forest is rapidly transforming into a sub-zero war zone. Deadly frost projectiles rain from the sky, shattering century-old tree trunks into millions of glittering, razor-sharp splinters while young Lee is locked in. The most lethal game of hide-and-seek ever recorded. The monstrous caster hoists its staff high. The ambient temperature plummets so fast it practically gives you frostbite just watching. It channels a blinding, hyper-concentrated beam of absolute zero energy, straight down like an orbital strike, trying to bore straight through the Earth's crust, just to vaporize our guy. The icy blast instantly deletes the forest canopy. The sheer kinetic impact of this spell is light years beyond any damage type Zhongli has survived so far. Pulverized ice and shattered wood explode across the sky. The whole sector gets plunged into an apocalyptic ice age in mere seconds. Yet amidst this literal cataclysm, this unhinged madman enters a deep, meditative trance right in the drop zone. With lethal frost magic exploding inches from his face like deadly fireworks, his eyes suddenly snap wide open, blazing with brilliant blue energy. And you already know what time it is, because we have witnessed this exact terrifying hyper-focus before. Only problem, the shaman is currently charging up its ultimate. White mechanic cackling like an absolute psychopath. A gargantuan tsunami of jagged ice is barreling straight for his face, while Zhongli is just sitting there muttering, yeah, this might be a wrap, which could legitimately be his final famous last words. So let us pick up right with a chaos peak. Zhongli is glued to the floor, meditating while a literal glacial apocalypse comes rushing at him like a next-day delivery of pure doom. Spoiler alert, our boy somehow tanked it barely, but his status window is looking exactly like a broke college student's bank account on rent day. His mana bar is too dry to spark up even a basic fireball, so pivoting to his lightning element, he just throws his hands up like, this is all I have got left. Looking like a dude trying to pay his bills with pocket lit and loose change, the shaman swallows every last fold. It shrieks in absolute agony, glitching out like a broken system error. Millions of watts paralyze the monster's core. Its knees slam into the dirt, tumbling down like a severed marionette. Gazing up at Zhongli's towering shadow, panic finally sets in. The raid boss suddenly realizes he is not the hunter anymore. Our boy just unlocked the ultimate cheat code. His maxed out lightning strikes interrupt spells right in the middle of their casting animation. Zero frost magic left for the enemy. Zhongli explodes off the ground like a missile. His eyes lock onto the target, knowing this is the perfect window. Pure absolute disrespect incoming. He blitzes forward and violently snatches the enchanted cloak right off the goblin's back. He smirks like an absolute demon. Without this armor, my magic is going to melt you. The ultimate menace energy is radiating off him, clutching the stolen loot. His confidence skyrockets. He realizes the tables have completely turned, and it is time to dish out the pain. He dives straight at the monster, moving with the insane swagger of a player wielding infinite stats. The goblin is violently wheezing. It leans heavily on its wooden staff, trembling on the verge of total collapse. But wait, blood-red light erupts from its irises. Pure terror morphs into absolute primal fury. The monster calls, and the cavalry. Surviving goblin mobs scatter through the dense woods, desperately hunting for our main character. Suddenly the boss catches a flicker of movement. Its single, functioning eye stretches wide in sheer terror. Zhongli's aura is blazing through the timber, and this creature refuses to eat. Another devastating combo attack. Pushed to the absolute brink, the monster burns its own life force, channeling every last drop of mana into a final frost strike. Massive glowing runes ignite the sky. A colossal frozen javelin, literally the size of a truck, rockets directly toward Zhongli's coordinates. Razor-sharp frost tears through ancient tree trunks. It operates like an industrial shredder, violently obliterating the landscape. The resulting shockwave mirrors an asteroid collision, leaving behind nothing but a sprawling crater of jagged ice. Frost vapors bleed from the goblin's claws. It pants heavily, completely certain it just sent our boy back to the lobby. But as the dust settles, dread washes over the beast. The epicenter is completely hollow. Nothing but shattered debris remains, not a single drop of blood in sight. Before the creature's peanut brain can compute this reality, a chilling whisper echoes from its blind spot. Zhongli is hovering perfectly in the air, a massive sphere of scorching flames, already primed, in his palm, wearing a smile that spells absolute doom. The shaman snaps its neck backward in slow motion, only to watch a blazing inferno hurl toward its skull. Zero distance, zero chance of dodging. It desperately summons a frantic defensive shield, but plot twist. Our guy already stripped away its fire immunity. The magical barrier vaporizes instantly. Molten heat punches straight through the defenses without losing a single ounce of momentum. Massive critical damage, the interface flashes a lethal strike. The terrifying boss gets instantly roasted alive inside its own territory. Standing victorious over the smoking ashes, Zhongli drops the analytics. A maxed out pyromancy build ignores basic shields completely, and he delivers the most savage dialogue of the chapter, looming over the defeated monster. With his weapon raised, crossing paths with me was your final mistake. The blade slashes downward, securing the ultimate execution. Peak disrespect achieved. This finale deserves an absolute standing ovation. Suddenly, the system interface explodes with notifications. 3 instantaneous rank ups. He breaches level 10, transforming from a 0-tier scrub to a certified dungeon conqueror in a single evening. Epic golden light floods the forest floor. The legendary boss staff and a shimmering skill manual just spawn. Inspecting his stolen fabric, the truth hits him. This garment was packing insane flame, negating stats the whole time. No wonder his previous pyromancy was doing 0 damage, but tragedy strikes. The item durability is completely burnt to a crisp. Forget the armor though. The legendary grimoire dissolves into pure data, injecting the Frost Arrow ability straight into his neurological network. The very technique that almost flatlined him, now locked and loaded in his arsenal. He smirks devilishly. If a tier 5 blast almost wrecked me, what kind of apocalyptic damage will the maxed out version deal? To top it off, the new weapon grants massive armor-piercing buffs, which means heavy tank enemies are about to get sliced apart like warm butter. The main character is officially overpowered, but instantly the hype train derailed. A sinister voice echoes through the shadows. Freeze kid. Hands to the sky enter Quan and his shady syndicate. These guys just swept the perimeter. They are totally convinced Zhongli's entire squad has been wiped out. Highly suspicious timing, right? Quan slithers forward with a venomous smirk. Did a newly awakened rookie just solo a sector boss? Wildly impressive. Too bad you left your superiors behind to die. Zhongli raises his palms, his eyebrows furrowing in pure confusion. Asking who even gave you my identity. Danger alarms are blaring in his head. This random encounter just turned incredibly toxic. The arrogant intruder puffs out his chest. I am Mian Quan of the elite Jin Chong Yan bloodline. His 2 heavily armed bodyguards stepping up to seal the trap. Bro steps up, looking like he practiced this monologue in the mirror for hours, and boom, the actual motive drops. Turns out, Zhongli supposedly tormented Quan's little cousin back in class, so Quan rolls up, demanding to know if our boy actually thought he had the guts to disrespect the almighty Yan bloodline. Instantly, Zhongli flips the switch to pure damage control. He waves his hands frantically like bully who actually flips exam. That is my dear classmates' precious family. I would literally never. All while flashing the absolute fakest, most plastic smile you have ever seen. Playing the ultimate fake coward, he actually tries handing over his hard-earned boss drops as tribute. He is like, hey man, grab whatever loot you want. Let's just squash the beef. Honestly, it is the most embarrassing survival tactic in gaming history. Quan just sneers at the pathetic bribe, so our main character is just standing there, hands raised, totally boxed in by these low-tier thugs. Bro looks like he brought coupons to a bank heist, but Quan is completely done playing games. Pure bloodlust flares in his eyes as he offers a sick ultimatum. Does Zhongli want to lose an arm or a leg? And he actually promises to make the amputation quick. This dude is totally psychotic, but right on cue, the light completely vanishes from Zhongli's eyes. Frost instantly crystallizes across both of his palms. See, he was never terrified for a single second. The madman was just stalling. Suddenly a random minion starts freaking out. He starts screaming that Zhongli has been stealthily channeling a mana recovery skill. This whole conversation, which basically means every pathetic plea from Urson, was just him resetting his cooldowns. Quan brushes it off though, high on his own ego. He figures we are all advanced tier awakened. What could one trash tier rookie mage possibly pull off? In response, Zhongli just slowly tilts his head down. A truly menacing smirk creeps out from the shadows. Oh, all 3 of you are advanced tier perfect. He looks exactly like a starving man who just found out the all-you-can-eat buffet is open. Quan gets totally triggered and aggressively lunges forward. He barks out that they are going to blitz him before he can even chant a single syllable, which is honestly a brilliant strategy. Except our guy already finished his prep. Without warning, Zhongli unleashes an absolutely maxed out blizzard strike, blasting all 3 targets simultaneously. The impact launches Quan's squad backward. Like rag dolls caught in a hurricane, the leader eats the dirt with so much force, the actual concrete splinters underneath his face. Lethal frost energy is literally sparking off his paralyzed body like a busted power line. Meanwhile, Qiangli just casually strolls over, looking down like a grim reaper. You know what they say about bad guys talking too much, right? Quen is just laying there, violently twitching, stuttering out pure nonsense about that insane casting speed, which is literally the most hilarious thing to ask after getting completely one-shotted without missing a beat. John Lee ignites a blinding fireball in his hand. He locks his piercing blue eyes onto his victim and coldly whispers, "Who knows?" The sheer disrespect is off the charts. An absolute pillar of raging inferno erupts, lighting up the pitch-black forest and painting the midnight sky completely orange. Bro just nuked this bully out of existence with a single, devastating blast. As the heavy smoke finally clears, Juan's entire elite squad is laid out in a massive crater, completely stripped to their underwear. I am dead serious. This absolute menace speed looted their entire inventory without a drop of hesitation. Now he is just chilling cross-legged on the grass. He is clutching a giant loot sack, smiling like an absolute demon. He literally thinks to himself, what is the best way to farm experience points after clearing a major zone? Boss player killing for pure profit. Obviously the kid has absolutely zero moral compass, and honestly game recognizes game, but then the post-battle clarity hits. That giant boss fight only boosted his stats by 3 measly levels, and this greedy little gremlin is already plotting his next major farming zone. He casually strolls away, swinging that rare goblin staff, and carrying every single item Quine used to own. He is just internally mocking how 3 Black Iron tier veterans tried to jump a rookie only to get instantly teen-white, adding that it is way too humiliating to ever make public. Soon enough he sneaks back into Rosedown. The midnight streets are practically dead, except for a few exhausted hunters catching their breath after surviving the deadly outer zones. Meanwhile our boy is dragging so much hijack legendary gear through the dark alley, he literally looks like a loot-obsessed pack mule. He starts praying out loud for a spatial inventory ring right before he stumbles upon the holy grail, the legendary golden dragon treasury. The massive doors slide open, literally radiating an aura that just begs him to spend his newly acquired wealth. But the absolute very first thing that catches his eye is a stunning, pink-haired merchant girl. And bro, her outfit was definitely engineered to make every single customer completely forget their shopping list. She hits him with that sweet customer service voice, asking if he needs any special assistance. My guy, we definitely need her assistance with a few quests. Trying to act cool, John Lee aggressively unloads his massive sack of stolen artifacts right onto the glass counter. He demands to liquidate the entire stack. She just cheerfully starts appraising the towering mountain of weapons that he literally just stripped off 3 unconscious dudes. Her eyes light up as she calculates the final total. That will be exactly 972,000 flame dragon coins, sir. But hey, let us just round that up to a cool 1 million. Our main character practically chokes on air and nearly faceplants because of flat 1 million coins just instantly deposited into his player system. His brain is frantically running the math. His poor mother barely scrapes by on maybe 4,000 a month, and he just casually minted a 7-figure fortune in a single night. Instantly, his mind shifts to buying his mom a massive mansion and retiring her early, which honestly, it is the only reason I am still cheering for this absolute menace of a loot goblin. But the sentimentality fades fast. As he enters pure whale mode, he slams his hands down demanding top-tier skill books. The cute merchant winks and guides him toward the exclusive VIP section. Right as a mysterious shadow with incredibly long, peering down from the VIP balcony, is a literal goddess with fiber purple hair. Lock your eyes on her, guys, because that is Mo Chin Chin, Golden City Academy's undisputed prodigy. Her gaze pierces the crowd, instantly locking onto Jianglei from all the way across the hall. And let me tell you, the artist cooked with her design. She is radiating an aura of absolute perfection that is genuinely dangerous. Meanwhile, our clueless main character casually strolls into the skill library, asking the clerk for the most basic page loadout available. He is completely blind to the fact that an academic powerhouse of a baddie is currently plotting his entire existence rent-free upstairs. The clerk slaps down their entire beginner arsenal. We are talking Wind Blade, Ice Arrow, the standard issue Elemental Starter Pack. But the price tag reads a soul-crushing 600,000 flame dragon coins each. Yang Li Zhongli nearly coughs up blood, because dropping 600 grand per tome makes his freshly earned million look like absolute pennies in this inflated economy. So he taps into his broke boy survival instincts, deciding to cop a budget option. Until his wallet levels up, he mentally calculates his current arsenal. Fireball handles his single target burst. Dark lightning serves as his devastating area of effect. Nuke and light armor brings the defense. The only puzzle piece missing is solid crowd control. Without hesitating, he snags a slowdown spell book for exactly 600,000 coins, and the moment it touches his hands, boom, instant absorption. He maxes the proficiency on contact, Our boy now wields a specialized magical tool kit that rookie casters would literally sell their souls to obtain, but his master plan is not finished. Knowing his mana reserves are a massive bottleneck, he drains his remaining funds on blue potions, stacking consumables like a sweaty gamer prepping for a final boss raid. Honestly, watching him min-max his stats like this is absolute cinema now. The camera violently pans back to something extremely spicy, tucked away inside a luxurious private lounge. An attendant is whispering exclusive intel to Mo. Ting Ching about a newly spawned Black Iron tier dungeon. Out in the Gale Plains, the catch. The entrance coordinates are completely ghosted. Ching Ching elegantly crosses her legs, declaring she will personally command the expedition tomorrow. And let me be totally real with you guys, she is radiating boss energy so intense it could bring entire nations to their knees. I am respectfully losing my absolute mind over here, but suddenly her fierce gaze softens as her thoughts drift back to the boy downstairs. Rumor had it, Zhongli completely fumbled this awakening ceremony, doomed to walk the path of a trash tier mage. So why on earth is he wandering the guild, browsing premium spells like an elite combatant? Her loyal butler shatters her train of thought, respectfully asking, "Miss, where has your mind wandered?" She flinches back to reality, panicking like a student who just got caught sleeping during a final exam. A heavy blush paints her cheeks as she frantically waves her hands, dropping the most suspicious nothing at all ever caught on tape in 0 alternate dimensions. Did that butler buy her a weak excuse? But he plays it cool, smoothly pivoting the conversation back to business. He reports that conquering this specific dungeon will aggressively catapult her power level straight into the Black Iron tier. That is a monumental milestone in this world. With that massive buff, she would effortlessly crush the Lei family prodigy in next week's combat trials. A cold, calculating smirk creeps across Ching Ching's face. It is the terrifying confidence of a girl who knows she is fundamentally built different. She rises with sheer authority, barking orders at Fubo to mobilize their elite vanguard. Instantly, she is storming that dungeon and taking 0 prisoners. Smash cut to the desolate Gale Plains. A savage pack of neon blue gale wolves is ripping through the tall grass like homing missiles, desperately dodging apocalyptic strikes of fire and lightning. Because guess who already hijacked this grinding zone? Zhongli is literally surfing on a wolf's back, treating the beast like a hoverboard while raining down elemental devastation in all directions. And the artwork in this sequence goes unbelievably hard. Crimson health bars float above the pack, melting into nothingness under his magical barrage. Every single level up he secure is multiplying his raw damage output to godlike proportions. Raw voltage dances across his fingertips as he smirks, finally realizing his current stats would turn low-tier goblins into absolute red mist. These hyper-lethal wolves are the exact elite mobs he needs to power level, but these beasts do not play games. Like those weak goblins out of his blind spot, a massive wolf launches itself with its fangs fully bared, aiming to snap his neck like a twig. Without blinking, Zhongli triggers his light armor, manifesting a blinding, golden shield that tanks the death blow. The monster ricochets off the barrier like it just headbutted a titanium vault. But the threat is far from over. The pack is multiplying aggressively, surrounding him in an endless sea of snarling jaws that refuse to stop responding. Our boy grits his teeth, realizing this is an infinite death loop. Dating his heels into the dirt, he blasts forward. He charges the swarm head-on, his staff humming with lethal blue energy as he swats beasts away like an absolute menace, treating a life or death survival match as his morning gym routine. He funnels an ocean of mana into his weapon, unleashing a devastating tidal wave of arc lightning that should vaporize everything breathing, except these predators possess terrifying agility. Pivoting midair to literally outrun the electrical strike, they split their formation flawlessly, weaving through the deadly voltage like a synchronized strike team. Zhongli's eyes turn icy cold as the reality hits him. These mutated gale wolves are outspeeding his fastest attacks, meaning pure, unadulterated firepower will not save him today. So he flips the script, instantly rocketing into the danger zone. If these mutts want to turn this into a speed run, he has the ultimate counterplay queued up. Time to drop that brand new slowdown spell. A massive purple magic circle tears through the air right in front of him. Honestly, this is exactly why our boy swiped his card. For this skill, the charging wolves slam into the binding rings and freeze instantly. It is literally like someone slammed the pause button on their entire existence, trapped dead in their track. Glowing purple energy coils around their legs like venomous snakes. Our guy just stands there, casually analyzing his shiny new toy. The cast speed is insane, and with absolutely 0 visible projectiles, dodging is mathematically impossible. But here it is, the massive catch is strictly single target, meaning triple casting this bad boy on 3 wolves just absolutely nuked his mana bar. Now it is a dead sprint. He has to execute the slowed wolves before the rest of the pack closes the gap. Lightning starts crackling wildly in his palms. He is moving like a man on a seriously tight schedule. After completely wiping the pack, he immediately chugs a blue mana potion to recover, because the sustained game in the zone is no joke, and those premium supplies he looted from the Golden Dragon treasure are already paying massive dividends. Leaning against the boulder at level 11, his grinding efficiency is literally off the charts. He is just grinning, realizing his shopping spree yesterday was a total big brain move. I have to give this absolute madman his flowers. His resource management is straight up elite tier, but suddenly his smug expression shatters, because a heavy ore just crashed into his detection range. In whatever this is, it is way too massive to be a regular mob. Emerging from the dust is a level 20 bloodline wolf. It is glowing with a sinister crimson aura, and surrounded by its loyal pack. It is like the system personally spawned this raid boss, just to remind him that the Gale Plains have zero chill. As is about to be a completely different breed of battle. This bloodline beast is basically a walking natural disaster with razor-sharp teeth. Meanwhile, Zhongli is desperately ducking behind a boulder, looking like a guy who just realized his health insurance definitely does not cover ice cut. Boss fights. The monster suddenly erupts with bloodline energy, so incredibly violent it completely rewrites the color palette of the entire battlefield. The air crackles with raw power and lightning, but does our fearless idiot back down? Absolutely not. He literally launches himself off the cliff's side, with fire blazing in his hands. He yells that it is time to take down the mother of the pack. A level 11 Scrow is straight up picking a fight with a local raid boss, and insanely enough he nails the exact weak spot. A massive critical hit registers. His vision floods with blinding fire and floating damage numbers. Somehow this absolute madman found the one soft spot on a creature forged entirely out of pure murder. The lackeys are completely wiped out, leaving just him versus the alpha boss. In a one-on-one death match, this menace confidently plants his staff in the dirt, acting like he engineered this exact cinematic outcome from the start. Except the alpha wolf takes that level of disrespect extremely personally. It rips forward with enough kinetic force to shatter solid stone, and those glowing fangs are definitely not for decoration. Zhongli instantly deploys his deceleration technique. A brilliant purple magic circle blooms directly in the monster's path. He is essentially telling a beast 3 times his size to sit down and behave. The binding magic mercilessly hooks the wolf mid-lunge. It drives the beast face first into the dirt, like gravity just tripled on absolute command. But wait, this boss has a face too. The monster angrily projects a terrifying phantom spirit form straight at Zhongli's face. Suddenly this fight just got way more up close and personal than he ever signed up for. He locks eyes with the beast, frantically thinking he genuinely has absolutely zero clue where the actual weak spot on a Gale wolf is supposed to be. The trapped predator viciously snarls at him, struggling violently inside its glowing purple restraints, but then scorching fire ignites in his palm, and he flashes this absolute demon grin. It is the look of a guy who just solved the boss fight equation without even reading the wiki. It is hairy, therefore it is weak, and now it is completely on fire. That is hands down the coldest, most disrespectful trash talk ever delivered to a mob in Manila history, and he means every single savage syllable. The trapped wolf is hopelessly stuck in the binding circle, staring deeply into that blazing fireball, rocking the most utterly offended expression a monster has ever produced. Looking like getting burned alive is somehow completely beneath its royal dignity. Too bad for you, buddy. He drops the nuke anyway. System triumphantly pings, confirming at another massive critical hit. The entire arena gets instantly vaporized into a literal cremation chamber. 2 full levels from a single kill, hitting level 13. That boss wolf was essentially a walking experience. Hinata and our absolute maniac cracked it open without even flinching, plus it drops the sleek black iron dagger and a black iron ring. Before the ash even settles, our guy is already running mental appraisals on the fresh merchandise like a greedy pawn shop owner. The very first words out of this ultimate loot goblin's mouth are, "I wonder how much gold I can flip these for." On the market at this point. His true awakened class is definitely not mage, but suddenly the earth starts violently trembling. Something incredibly heavy is tearing straight through the plains right toward him. It is closing the distance every single second, and it shows absolutely zero signs of slowing down. Zhongli hurriedly picks himself up, looking around in utter confusion, because apparently the Gale Plains enforce a ruthlessly strict zero rest policy for anyone foolish enough to solo grind out here. The literal millisecond his eyes lock onto the incoming threat, every single ounce of victory instantly drains from his pale face, because a suffocating wall of dust, the size of a small city, is rolling aggressively across the grassland. Straight for him it is a catastrophic, full-blown wolf stampede. Hundreds of rabid beasts flood the terrain, It honestly looks like the server just spawned a massive world event and completely forgot to warn the players. He desperately crouches behind cover, white-knuckling his new dagger and panicking. He literally just finished taking down an elite boss monster. There is absolutely zero need for this extreme level of retaliation, but the endless wave of wolves is already swarming in from every conceivable angle, and our boy is about to experience the absolute horror of getting Ice Sky Road killed. He is about to get brutally ragdolled straight through the stampede. He is getting tossed around like a paper cup in a Category 5 hurricane. Massive wolves are just blurring past him from every single direction. But right in the middle of this absolute meat grinder, he downs a mana potion and a massive realization hits him. This pack, they do not even care that he is there. The truth smacks him harder than a freight train. If these beasts are not hunting him for payback, then somebody else just kicked the hornet's nest and they woke up something terrifying. His gamer brain connects the dots in a split second. The only monster capable of commanding a stampede this enormous, the Wolf King itself. Meaning some crazy squad just aggroed the regional boss and this entire map just turned into a death zone. Now any normal player would be sprinting for the nearest safe zone, but our absolute menace of a main character, he immediately starts charging straight toward the boss coordinates, screaming at the top of his lungs that the legendary drops belong to him and absolutely nobody else. Honestly, at this point, I cannot tell if he is fearlessly brave or literally insane. Seriously though. But let's jump over to a gloomy cave entrance, where a completely different raid party just barely survived a brutal clear. And bro, they look like they just went through a meat grinder. Blindfolded, 3 battered adventurers are holding the front line, weapons shaking as they gasp for air. Right in the middle stands this gorgeous orange-haired healer with emerald eyes. And let me tell you, the illustrator absolutely snapped on her character design, because she literally just hijacked all my attention away from the blood-soaked battlefield. But before I can even start simping, the bald party leader starts screaming his lungs out, cursing out a bunch of shadows for kill stealing and plotting an ambush, and their response, a brutal slash straight across his frontline swordsmen. Yeah, whoever just crashed this raid definitely did not come to talk things out. These absolute vultures have the sheer audacity to smirk and say blame your own stupidity for trying to solo a boss raid without clearing the perimeter, claiming that if they did not swoop in to steal the ultimate loot, someone else would have anyway. The ego on these bottom feeders is actually off the charts. We are looking at a heavily armed death squad of player killers, and they just boldly declared that the epic gear, the blood-striped Wolf King's corpse, all of it is their property. Now lock this treacherous crew in your memory. Trust me on this. The 3 exhausted adventurers can only watch as this grinning mob slowly boxes them in. The power scaling here is an absolute joke. They are completely outmatched. So the spineless captain instantly folds, betting to trade all their hard-earned rewards, throwing away the epic drops, the legendary boss materials, everything just to keep his own health bar above 0. While poor Vivi just stands there frozen, forced to watch her supposed protector completely shatter under pressure. But the mohawk-wearing bandit leader just cackles and completely flips the script. The shiny loot is not enough for him anymore. He locks his eyes on the beautiful priestess. He wants Vivi, and the pure dread in the scene just skyrocketed to terrifying levels. This absolute monster actually smirks and says, once I am done enjoying my new prize, I might just let the rest of you scurry away, flashing a terrifying smile that literally screams villain arc, because the dark turn this manhwa just took is giving me straight up chills. Panicking Vivi desperately screams for her captain to do something, and this pathetic excuse for a warrior, this absolute trash tier leader, just stutters, pleading, Vivi, please do not hate me for this. Bro is literally sobbing about his own survival, fully prepared to sacrifice his innocent support class to a pack of wolves, just to save his own pathetic skin. I am not exaggerating, he is officially the most garbage character in this entire series, and that is saying a lot. He actually lunges to grab her as she weakly whispers, no, and honestly, the ultimate betrayal coming from her own guildmate, it's way harder than any bandit blade ever could. Her back slams against the jagged cavern wall, her escape route completely blocked, as she tearfully begs these monsters to stay back. And I swear, if our main character does not drop into the scene in the next 5 seconds, I am throwing hands with the author. A filthy hand violently snatches her arm as her desperate pleas echo through the cave. The absolute despair in her eyes is heart-wrenching, because she fully realizes that no hero is coming to save her, until a blinding flash of azure lightning absolutely obliterates the darkness, carving a path of pure destruction straight to the bandit front line, instantly serving every single one of these degenerates a lethal dose of high voltage. The entire battlefield goes completely dead silent. Time literally freezes the player killers, the cowardly captain, even a stunned Vivi. Not a single soul can comprehend what kind of godly tier magic just nuked the area. The Mohawk boss is absolutely seething with static electricity, literally smoking off his charred scalp. He furiously roars into the shadows, demanding to know who dared to steal his prey. The sheer audacity of this villain, playing the victim right now. He violently swings his blade through the dissipating smoke, ordering his surviving goons to charge blindly into the dust, barking at this mysterious powerhouse to step out and show their face. Pretty loud words from a coward who specializes in hunting exhausted low levels, then stepping out from the blazing inferno, with a menacing boss-level smirk carved onto his face. The goat himself, Jiang Li, finally enters the chat, casually mocking these losers, pointing out that the sun has not even set and they are already out here farming negative karma. The visual is absolutely iconic. He is literally cloaked in an aura of raging flames, casually resting his demonic, skull-tipped staff on his shoulder, smoothly asking if they are truly this committed to being absolute trash. I am telling you. This entrance is easily the most hyped, adrenaline-pumping panel this entire manhwa has dropped so far. Triggered by his words, one of the enraged bandits violently lunges at him, bringing down a massive, lethal overhead strike aimed right for his skull. And Jiang Li, he effortlessly catches the razor-sharp blade with his bare hand, like someone just tossed him a water bottle, piercing the attacker's soul with an icy glare. He coldly drops the hardest line, "Did I say you could interrupt me?" before instantly detonating a point-blank blast of hellfire, so catastrophically huge the shockwave literally launches that fool and 3 of his closest buddies straight into orbit. Because rule number 1 of survival: you never interrupt the main character's monologue. That loudmouth bandit boss who was just playing God, he is suddenly eating dirt, pathetically begging the universe for mercy. And right in the middle of this beautiful chaos stands Vivi, completely paralyzed, watching a mysterious god-tier player single-handedly eradicate her darkest nightmare. In less than 60 seconds, trembling, she slowly looks up at her blazing savior, tears of disbelief spilling down her cheeks as she softly whispers, "Is it really you?" Meaning, this girl already has Zhongli completely figured out. We just walked straight into some hidden lore nobody gave us a heads up about. Meanwhile, Mohawk guy is out here doing mental gymnastics for the first time ever. Way. Because half his crew just got wiped off the map in one single devastating combo. Dude is just standing there, gripping his tiny blade, probably deeply regretting his entire career choice as a local thug. But this absolute clown somehow gaslights himself back into feeling brave, thinking that at the end of the day, Zhongli is just a frail spellcaster. And apparently in this universe, being a mage means you are basically made of glass and incredibly easy to jump. So he commands his entire mob to rush our boy, all at once screaming at them to interrupt his casting. And these mindless goons actually blindly obey, except Zhongli just effortlessly summons a blazing inferno in his palm, looking chill, like he is just warming up by a cozy winter campfire. He casually wonders out loud why these fools are sprinting at him, like they are practically begging to get sent straight to the afterlife. Then he unleashes a blast of fire so incredibly savage, it turns the whole ambush into a literal barbecue, roasting them while asking if they are truly in a rush to meet their ancestors. The Mohawk leader barely dodges the blazing heatwave, while one of his henchmen completely eats dirt, face first, his weapon flying off into orbit, like it just violently quit its job. This boss bandit is experiencing a total system crash right now, because how on earth does a beginner fire spell hit like a massive freight train? He starts screaming that it is only a basic tier skill, claiming that this kind of insane damage output defies all logic because every single blade in their squad just clattered to the dirt, simultaneously dropping like the most beautifully coordinated resignation letter ever written. And the Mohawk guy, the same toxic predator acting so tough 5 minutes ago, yeah, he is currently eating dust on the ground, pleading that this whole ambush was just a massive misunderstanding, desperately trying to smooth talk his way out of death like it is a minor traffic violation. Then this absolute rat switches up to bribery mode, begging John Lee to grab Vivi and walk away, while desperately leaking intel that the Bloodroom Wolf King is lurking deeper inside. But our main character is officially done talking. He manifests a spear of ice, packed with so much pure killing intent it freezes the entire negotiation, telling these thugs that since they chose a path of violence, they'd better be ready to choke on the consequences. And that freezing lands absolutely shreds through Mohawk's chest, punching his ticket and printing the final receipt for every wicked sin he has ever committed. Coughing up a puddle of blood, this clown still has the absolute nerve to talk trash, threatening that the Blood Wolf mercenaries will hunt him down for brutal revenge, which honestly shows some highly impressive dedication to being completely delusional. until his final breath. Meanwhile, Zhongli just sits cross-legged, surrounded by defeated enemies, casually scrolling through his skill cooldown like he is double-checking a boring grocery list. He realizes his recent level up just massively upgraded his entire combat arsenal. Right before Vivi approaches to offer her sweetest gratitude, and please understand, that the artist definitely picked this specific camera angle for a reason, because her beauty is absolutely breathtaking here, striking him from every single angle with a smile pure enough to heal the world. Admitting she honestly never expected him to pack that much insane power, she confesses she was genuinely worried sick about him. But my guy Zhongli is completely oblivious to the top-tier romantic affection being thrown his way. This wonderfully dense, emotionally clueless legend just brushes it off, telling her it is no big deal since she saved him earlier. So now their debt is completely square, acting like he's just paying off a dinner tab, completely ruining a magical moment with the most gorgeous girl in the whole server. Then, without a single ounce of hesitation, this absolute madman invites her to go hunt down the Wolf King boss together, treating a deadly boss raid like he is asking her out for a casual coffee date. The sheer, unbothered audacity of this guy is truly legendary. Vivi is mentally glitching, trying to process what just happened, realizing this crazy guy just single-handedly dismantled a hardcore mercenary squad, and now he is literally speed-running toward a major boss room, like he has a discount code about to expire. Honestly, her stunned expression speaks straight to my soul. Then the panel hits us with a gorgeous close-up shot, highlighting those stunning, glowing emerald eyes of hers. She starts heavily suspecting he is hiding some incredibly overpowered hidden class, because there is zero chance someone this young should be this broken. And respectfully, my brain has also completely flatlined, staring at this beautiful artwork. They finally step deep inside the dark cavern, and right there waits the legendary Bloodroom Wolf King, a terrifying level 25 boss monster, lounging across the cold stone floor like an absolute demon, claiming its territory. Now let me break down the alarming math for you all. Zhongli is only level 20, having just barely touched Black Iron rank, yet this monstrous beast is sitting a full 5 levels above his weight class at a massive boss stat multiplier. On top of that massive gap, Island instantly voices what every single player is thinking, asking if just 2 people can actually take this nightmare down, which is easily the most rational question asked in this entire storyline. But Zhongli faces impossible odds with the exact same fearless energy every time, claiming they will never know unless they try, and immediately launches a blistering fire lance right between the Wolf King's eyes, because playing it safe is simply not in our boy's vocabulary. The massive explosion instantly floods the dark cave with scorching intense heat. For a split second it feels like this raid might actually be a total breeze, except the system screen refuses to give him any good news. 0 critical hits and absolutely 0 weakness indicators pop up, meaning fire damage against this beast is like tossing a woolen napkin at a heavy military tank. And a giant Wolf King takes that initial attack highly personally, bursting right through the roaring flames, screaming that these pathetic intruders are about to meet a gruesome end. And the fact that this beast can actually speak, that just cranked the nightmare fuel to 11. Zhongli stares up at this absolute skyscraper of a boss, completely mind-blown that a wild mod is dropping full sentences, but his gamer instincts instantly kick into overdrive. Brute forcing with fire is a dead end. But wait, the Wolf King has absolutely 0 magic resistance. This raid just morphed into a high-stakes puzzle. He trashes his original strat in a split second and launches a crowd control spell. Glowing purple chains erupt, locking down the giant beast, because if you cannot melt the boss, you cripple it. The debuff lands perfectly. The Wolf King immediately stutters, choked by crackling phantom energy, while critical damage markers explode into the air. For a brief second, this untouchable apex predator actually looks mortal, but a crippled raid boss is still a raid boss. It literally shreds through the magic chains and lunges forward, packing enough kinetic force to shatter the bedrock. Zhongli desperately throws up his light armor barrier, but the impact utterly deletes his hit points. His shield shatters like tempered glass under a sledgehammer. Red warning signals flood his vision. The tutorial phase is officially over. Zhongli scrambles back, adrenaline spiking, as he realizes he was 1 frame away from a total wipe. Even heavily debuff, this monster is ignoring the physics engine entirely. That brutal 5-level gap is no joke. He immediately pivots to cryo magic. Frost gathers at the tip of his staff, flash freezing the oxygen in the cavern. If raw power is off the table, surgical precision is the only play left. Enter Vivi, proving exactly why she belongs in this raid. She drops a massive magic amplification buff, instantly doubling his damage output. Having a top-tier support locking down the backline is literally the ultimate cheat code for any party composition. The radiant buff washes over Zhongli, hitting his stats like a developer-mandated hotfix. Brilliant golden aura entwines with his biting frost, Bro just secured a god tier upgrade right in the middle of a boss fight, but the Wolf King instantly reads the attack vector, sidestepping the boosted ice projectile with veteran combat instincts. Vivi gasps, her blood running cold. That was supposed to be their ultimate finisher, but a sly smirk creeps onto Zhongli's face. The miss was the actual bait. Fresh frost dances across his fingertips. He mutters that the dodge was perfectly calculated. This absolute madman of a strategist just manipulated a level 25 boss into stepping on a landmine. The true Palo detonates directly against the beast's blind spot. A massive critical strike notification lights up the gloom. Zhongli drops the hardest flex of the entire battle, smoothly declaring Medi stole this exact fake out from countless boss raids. Turns out this tactical genius had fully memorized the anatomical flaws of every single wolf mob he had ever formed. The glaring weakness is anchored right at the waist. Vivi stares at his back, looking at this supposedly fake mage like he just unlocked the secrets of the universe. The alpha is brutally staggered now. Crimson aura aggressively pulses through its rippling veins, each breath a violent storm of pure malice. But the menacing drop of its shoulders screams one thing: this survival horror is about to escalate into an absolute nightmare. The monstrous canine throws its head back, unleashing a shockwave howl that splinters the ceiling. Anyone who has touched a controller knows exactly what that cursed animation triggers. Vivi screams a frantic warning. The raid boss just entered its enraged phase. Oppressive crimson light violently floods the cavern. The universal indicator at the difficulty slider just snapped from hard to impossible. Things immediately crossed the line from bad to catastrophic. The king did not just buff its stats, it summoned an execution squad. Dozens of blood wolves literally melt out of the shadows, like a demon portal just ripped open. Yongli's eyes lock onto the furious pack, instantly recognizing the stampede that nearly trampled him earlier. The chilling realization hits: the king was controlling the horde from the very beginning. He just kicked down the front door of the puppet master's stronghold. The colossal alpha looms behind its vanguard, radiating the most disrespectful aura ever programmed into a monster. This boss is not just a brawler, it is the general of a nightmare army. But Vivi refuses to back down. She chains mana regeneration abilities while blanketing the approaching horde, and heavy, slow effects. Her immaculate support rotations are transforming this suicide mission into an absolute masterclass of duo combat. Standing dead center on a glowing crimson spell circle, Zhongli squares up against the apocalypse. This cinematic standoff is easily the most reckless, suicidal move he has pulled off yet, which for him is truly saying something. Without hesitating, he nukes the entire vanguard with a devastating rotation of fire barrages. Experience point notifications waterfall across his vision like endless slot machine jackpots. This absolute unit is actually speed farming the boss minions as if they were a bonus stage. He quickly calculates that the claustrophobic cave geometry forces his spells to land with 100 efficiency, weaponizing the boss's own swarm tactic into a limitless all-you-can-eat experience. Buffet. And then the ultimate galaxy brain realization strikes him, flooding this tiny arena with expendable minions. Completely body block the Wolf King, which means the boss literally played itself worse than any debuff ever could. So our absolute madman locks gazes with the Wolf King, staring straight into those glowing crimson eyes, and delivers a bone-chilling ultimatum: spam that summon skill one more time. That is if you want to keep breathing. Because this absolute menace just weaponized a boss ultimate, turning a deadly mechanic into his own personal power, leveling Buffa and the Wolf King. It answers with nothing but pure, unbridled fury. No mere mortal has ever dared to disrespect its signature move like this. The beast snaps, and this overgrown monster is finally taking off the kid gloves. It launches forward with every ounce of its remaining life force, razor-sharp claws shredding through the very air, aiming straight for Zhongli. And our boy is actually getting shoved backward, completely overwhelmed by the sheer crushing aura of a raid boss that just threw diplomacy out the window. But Zhongli spots the fatal flaw in that reckless assault. Crimson flames spiral violently in his palm. As he whispers that the perfect execution window is finally open, he detonates his entire magical reserve, unleashing a catastrophic hellfire blast that swallows the corrupted beast entirely. The system immediately chimes with a glorious level 4 ping, while the deafening howl shaking the cavern walls is either a tragic death rattle or the sound of the thickest loop pinata popping open in series history. System notifications for experience points are absolutely flooding his vision, flashing endlessly like a broken Vegas slot machine. Because this absolute mad lad literally milked an entire minion wave for maximum gains. Even Pilot is vacuuming up massive chunks of passive experience, literally just by breathing in his general vicinity. Honestly, that is the most relatable away from keyboard carry strategy ever witnessed. Bam. Level 15 achieved, and Zhongli is casually standing in the dead center of a literal wolf graveyard, gripping a magic staff that is radiating pure power, looking exactly like a hacker who just triggered an infinite money glitch. Meanwhile Vivi is glued to the sidelines. Her brain, still struggling to process the absolute massacre she just watched, and this maniac, he casually downs a blue mana potion, shutting it down like a heavily caffeinated pre-workout shake before instantly demanding round 2, because wiping out an entire canine ecosystem was, apparently just as warm-up stretching. An absolute galaxy brain realization smacks him like a runaway freight train. If this raid boss can vomit out high-value minions on command, why on earth would he ever touch grass to grind regular trash mobs again? The majestic Wolf King is literally shivering in its boots right now, realizing its entire bloodline of summons just got instantly evaporated. This oversized mutt is having a massive existential crisis, desperately wondering who the actual apex predator in this dungeon really is. Zhongli just hits it with the most disrespectful shoulder shrug in combat history, silently informing this level 25 raid boss that its shelf life has officially expired. The negotiations have entirely broken down, so he starts channeling one final catastrophic ice arrow, radiating the chaotic energy of an employee cashing out a massive severance package. This tragic beast has been thoroughly farmed for all it is worth, and it is finally time to punch the final receipts. The piercing frost projectile shrieks across the cavern air, while the broken boss desperately curses him out as a literal devil, which coming straight from a demonic dungeon entity. That is honestly a glowing 5-star Yelp review. The freezing bolt violently punches right through its corrupted torso as it howls its final demonic curse into the void. And honestly, that might be the most flawlessly accurate character assessment in this entire manhwa. The entire dungeon structure violently shakes as rocks begin to plummet, and our girl Vivi magically skyrockets straight to level 21, carried purely by that sweet shared experience radius. Boulders are crashing down like the cavern itself is giving them a standing ovation, while Zhongli effortlessly hits level 16 with an absolute menace of a smirk, casually flexing about snatching 3 entire levels, plus a literal mountain of premium drops from one singular instance run. Vivi is just frozen on the floor, her jaw completely unhinged at the monumental haul this absolute lunatic secured, staring blankly and asking the exact question every single viewer is thinking, because she just witnessed a gamer systematically abuse a boss mechanic, turning a desperate summoning ritual into an infinite experience loop, leaving her deeply questioning the dungeon hierarchy. Was Zhongli the actual raid boss all along? Suddenly this clueless gidget Chad waves her over with zero urgency, acting like he just found a shiny pebble on the playground instead of sorting through the bloody aftermath of a dungeon boss assassination. He casually tosses a brilliantly glowing magical staff into her hands, coolly declaring it as her rightful slice of the loot pie. Both hands instantly slap over her mouth in absolute disbelief, stuttering out that she was literally just dead weight the entire time, which is easily the most painfully wholesome moment to ever happen inside a blood-drenched murder cave. But Zhongli instantly vetoes that imposter syndrome, reminding her that her clutch mana restoration saved the run, not to mention those crucial damage buffs, looking her dead in the eye and calling her a top-tier support, someone he absolutely needs by his side for the brutal trials ahead. And this oblivious gamer literally has zero idea how much emotional damage he just dealt. Vivi hugs that magical staff to her chest, vibrating with the exact energy of a girl who just got a diamond ring, her inner monologue completely melting over the fact that she actually matters to him. And the manhwa artist absolutely snapped on this panel beautifully, reminding us why she was genetically engineered to conquer the YouTube comment section. The duo finally pushes deeper into the echoing abyss, while Zhongli immediately pops open his system interface, ready to inspect the Golden Twin skill books. The boss just dropped the lightness spell and the swamp spell, and you can literally see the dopamine rushing through this man, tearing through his post-battle loot like an ecstatic kid on Christmas morning. But here is the absolutely wild part. Both of these magical arts drop, but their proficiency already maxed out. Suddenly, the entire battle choreography clicks into place, explaining exactly how that massive beast completely ignored his movement debuffs earlier. That overgrown puppy had a built-in speed hack hardwired into its system the whole time. But then the details of the swamp spell completely hijack his attention. An area of effect crowd control that can lock down entire enemy squads simultaneously. Oh yeah, you can practically see the hyper-optimized gamer spreadsheets calculating behind those glowing eyes, mentally logging that strategy to absolutely wreck the next mob wave. Our boy gets violently interrupted by Vivi screaming his name. She is practically vibrating with hype, which is wild considering they are literally chilling in a graveyard of slaughtered wolves. But her excitement is justified. She just spotted a ghost orchid or radiant neon purple blossom straight out of a mythical fantasy world that is somehow sprouting right in the middle of a slaughterhouse. Zhongli instantly shifts into expert appraiser mode. He breaks it down for her, explaining that for awakened hunters, this thing is total trash, but for ordinary humans it is an ultra rare, top-tier miracle drug. Hearing that, Vivi basically adds cartoon dollar signs flashing in her eyes as she calculates the insane market value. Playing fair, our main character splits the loot right down the middle, handing her one. Vivi locks eyes with him, flashing absolute gratitude. With the most wholesome, heart-melting smile this manhwa has blessed us with. So far these two are straight up going on a romantic side quest, surrounded by monster carcasses, completely oblivious to how unhinged that is. But the mood shifts heavily. Zhongli gazes at his glowing flower, his expression softening into something deeply personal. He opens up, revealing his mom is just a regular human. Her body is completely breaking down. After decades of brutal labor and grinding sickness, he clutches the petal, praying this miracle herb will finally bring her some relief. Vivi just stares at him, her eyes practically overflowing with affection. Talk about a massive character pivot. He swapped from ruthless boss slayer to the ultimate devoted son in the blink of an eye, instantly maxing out his charm stats. But before the romance can fully bloom, reality crashes back and Vivi catches a weird, pulsing glow bleeding through the back of the cavern. She grabs Zhongli by the arm, dragging him toward the mysterious light, because apparently this murder den is an absolute goldmine. He warns her to step back, summoning a blistering sphere of pure arcane fire to blast the barrier, going from soft boy hours to elite combat mode in a split second. Gives me serious emotional whiplash. The blast obliterates the stone facade, leaving them staring down a scorching, jagged tunnel that was definitely hiding off the minimap. Stepping through the dust, they both freeze dead in their tracks. This is not some random hidden chamber. It is a massive undiscovered secret realm. A chaotic, swirling abyss crackling with volatile blue lightning that looks exactly like the universe accidentally spawned a nightmare mode gateway. In the basement, the system notification pops up, tagging it as a level 25 black and iron ranked dungeon. Main Dark Altar. The catch: it is permanently locked on hard mode, capped exclusively for players level 23 and under, requiring a full party of 2 to 6 people. Yet our absolute madman of a protagonist is already calculating if he can run it solo. At level 16, Vivi, blessed with actual common sense and a desperate will to live, begs him to fall back and restock, considering they literally just survived a massive boss fight. But Zhongli instantly vetoes that logic. With the terrifying swagger of a guy who eats death flags for breakfast, he casually mentions she is totally free to walk away, but promises on his life to protect her if she steps through that rift. That absolute god tier line delivered would have any girl within 100 miles throwing caution straight out the window. Vivi responds with a blindingly gorgeous expression, outshining the literal sun. She completely buys into his crazy plan, whispering her relief with the absolute devotion of someone ready to march straight into the abyss. For this man pumping her fist, she aggressively swears to be his meat shield if things go south naturally. The artist decides to frame her in an incredibly distracting, curve-hugging outfit right at this exact moment. It makes reading the actual subtitles completely impossible, which I am equally mad and thrilled about. They dive through the vortex, crash landing into a corrupted, pitch-black forest as the system instantly assigns them a doom. Time requests stop the robed dark mage Arubai from finishing a catastrophic ritual. This screams exactly like the kind of scenario that gets entire parties wiped at 3 in the morning. But Zhongli only hears the words dark mage, and his loot goblin brain instantly auto-translates that into top-tier magical gear dropped. You can literally see the demonic greed sparking in his eyes as he mentally scans the legendary loot tables. Without hesitating, this absolute psycho sprints headfirst into the death trap, screaming about how hyped he is, while Vivi scrambles after him in a panic, desperately pleading for him to hit the brakes. They are officially the most chaotic, underleveled duo to ever disrespect the hard mode raid. But a split second later, Zhongli drops the playful aura. He snatches Vivi by the wrist, yanking her violently behind a massive rotting trunk and hissing at her to stay down. The sheer velocity of his shift from hyperactive kid to lethal cold-blooded assassin is actually terrifying. Pinned against the bark, Vivi is completely clueless about what is happening, while Zhongli peeks around the edge with dead serious predator eyes. He is clearly locked onto a target that you absolutely do not want to aggro. By accident, prowling through the mist is a level 20 skeleton knight, mounted on a phantom steed, burning with azure hellfire. This random, brunt enemy possesses an aura so intimidating it could easily serve as the final boss in a lower tier series. Realizing the absolute lowest tier cannon fodder in this zone outlevels him by 4 whole ranks, Jean Lee finally starts sweating his life choices, huddled in the dirt with a girl who has placed way too much blind faith in his sanity. But wait, it gets worse. An entire death squad of skeletal cavalry and shadow assassins is patrolling the ridge. Yet instead of mashing the retreat button, this absolute clown is practically drooling over the massive experience. An item drops. His internal survival radar is permanently broken. Too bad their stealth mission completely falls apart in less than 4 seconds. The undead squad locks onto them and instantly, and the sheer panic on their faces is absolute cinematic gold. Operation Stealth just went completely up in flames. A horde of skeletal knights comes charging through the shadows, screeching about intruders, swinging their rusted blades with absolute murderous intent. Zhongli barely drops into a combat stance before the vanguard hits. Luckily for our guy, these undead grunts swing like literal level 1 mob characters, broadcasting every single strike a mile away. If these boneheads had even a single brain cell left, this skirmish would be a totally different story. So he figures, is the perfect time to beta test that new swamp skill he looted from the alpha wolf. He slams his staff into the dirt, infecting the entire battlefield with a glowing emerald sludge, because he needs a practice dumb. When you can just limit tests in a life or death situation, the skeletal warhorse instantly plunges into the toxic mire, swallowing them like hungry quicksand. Bones violently rattle as both rider and mount are completely paralyzed mid-sprint. Now here's where our main character goes absolutely feral. He follows up the crowd control by igniting a massive fireball in his palm. That devilish grin on his face, it means these trapped mobs are about to experience the devastating combo of heavy lockdown and raw area of effect damage. The blast absolutely vaporizes the swamp zone. Charred ribs and skulls rain from the sky like a bomb just went off in a graveyard. This maxed out swamp ability stretches across a ridiculous 30-meter radius, meaning this one single skill just evolved Jolin from a solo targeting rogue into a walking nuke against massive hordes. He flexes over the dissolving undead, casually realizing he might never have to sweat in a one-on-one duel ever again. Those desperate, only fingers clawing at his boots just make this the coldest, most disrespectful victory pose we have seen yet. Suddenly, a heavy crash echoes from deep within the cursed woods. Vivy immediately tenses up, wondering if another squad is actively raiding a boss room. After all, they cannot be the only psychos insane enough to dive into this hellhole. She only connects the dots in a heartbeat. He guesses another party must have accidentally aggroed the dark mage way ahead of schedule. He commands Vivi to hold the line while he scouts ahead, totally alone, because honestly, this guy's addiction to solo leveling is practically incurable. Pushing through the brush, he discovers a full raid party of heavy knights getting absolutely shredded by the skeletal vanguard. Their frontline tank is practically coughing up blood, screaming for an emergency escape scroll, because this entire squad is literal seconds away from being wiped out. But right in the eye of this chaotic storm stands a violet-haired goddess, a top-tier beauty who just permanently altered my brain chemistry and shattered my entire priority list. Seriously, she is glowing like the head artist's absolute magnum opus. Suddenly a giant, undead cavalry unit crashes into her bodyguard like a runaway freight train. The dude barely raises his heavy shield before the sheer kinetic force crushes him face first into the dirt. Another monster lunges forward to deliver the fatal execution, and the guard's eyes blow wide open. His blocking arm is completely shattered. There is absolutely zero defense left between this nightmare cavalry and a total bloodbath. Boom. Zhongli instantly materializes, using his light armor skill, parrying the death blow like he specifically choreographed his entrance for peak cinematic glory. And knowing our resident edgelord, he definitely did. The stunning violet-haired girl spins around, and the name that slips past her lips is none other than Zhongli. That pure unfiltered shock written across her face screams that she already has some major history with our boy, making their hidden past the spiciest new subplot in this entire run. The squad's captain actually recognizes him too. He blurts out Zhongli's name, remembering him from the Hunter Academy, sounding utterly mind-blown that the literal worst student in their class just tanked a hit from a level 20 monstrosity. Then reality hits him. John Lee literally just survived his awakening ceremony a few days ago. You can see the gears turning in the captain's head, desperately trying to calculate how a rookie trash-tier hunter is casually standing in a hard mode zone, deflecting strikes that nearly snapped him in half, gripping his wounded arm. The knight barks that these cursed beasts are way out of a beginner's league, and they refuse to play babysitter right now, which officially ranks as the most delusional, confidently incorrect statement ever muttered by a man who is literally being saved from death. Zhongli just brushes off the disrespect with a smirk, icy enough to freeze hell. He is fully preparing to humble every single elite pro standing in this clearing, and he already tastes the victor, telling them to save their breath. He instantly detonates a cataclysmic firestorm, swallowing the entire undead vanguard in blazing fury. It is like the whole force just got slapped with a fiery eviction notice. The brainless, skeletal rider blindly charged through the inferno, because the undead possess zero survival instincts, sprinting headfirst into a solid wall of scorching magic that instantly vaporizes their bones into white ash. Plus 40 experience points pop up per kill, spanning his system notifications 4 times in a single breath. This absolute menace just harvested more raw experience in 5 seconds than this so-called elite guild farm during their entire dungeon dive. He casually scratches the back of his neck, completely unbothered by the blazing carnage, and just whispers down a blue system screen flashes, announcing his promotion to level 17, ringing out like a digital receipt for absolute battlefield dominance. That same arrogant captain who just ordered him to run away, he is standing there completely paralyzed, jaw glued to the floor, violently stuttering as he processes the total massacre. Just one devastating strike. That is all it took. The sheer, mind-bending shock is literally short-circuiting this dude's entire reality. The purple-haired absolute stunner is just watching the whole scene unfold, whispering that this guy is seriously built different. Her golden eyes are literally glowing like she just hit the jackpot. And honestly, the way the artist cooked up this panel needs a warning label. Meanwhile, her knights instantly flip from begging for help to massive ego tripping, screaming our boy to get lost. It is hands down the most pathetic amount of cope I have ever witnessed from grown men in armor. But the purple-haired queen just completely ignores them, marching straight up to Zhongli. She flexes that she totally called his hidden potential, and our oblivious king literally has zero clue who he is talking to, since his social radar has been permanently disconnected from the server. But suddenly the gears shift and it hits him. Wait, you are Mo Ching Ching, that prodigy chick stepping neck and neck with Lemon. Meaning he is currently standing face to face with top-tier academy royalty, and she has been secretly scouting his moves this entire run. Ching hits him with a warning about the dungeon's threat level, while our knight throws shade from the back, claiming it's only merely stole the mobs they had already softened out, which is easily the wildest, most delusional cap ever spit by a dude who was literally eating dirt. Barely 30 seconds ago, the guards puff out their chests, flexing their elite black iron status like it means something. They tell him to step back. The sheer volume of unearned confidence radiating off these guys could genuinely power an entire grid. Zhongli absolutely could not care less about their resumes and straight up pivots to leave. He has a boss to hunt, and these bottom-tier NPCs are just wasting his time. Throwing one last glance over his shoulder, he mentally logs the fact that this squad gets clapped by tutorial-level trash mobs, confirming they pose zero threat to his boss, Loot Monopoly. But Ching Ching is not letting him walk away that easily. She intercepts him, dropping the hard truth that he is probably not even sitting at Black Iron yet. And the specific way she frames that sentence is a dead giveaway. She is brewing up an offer he cannot possibly reject. Yet our guy casually leaks that he is already sitting at level 17, and ranking up is basically just a side quest. At this point, Ching Ching just freezes, desperately trying to compute how a dude who caught his awakening mere days ago is already crashing her terror. The utter disbelief painting her face is completely unscripted, because hitting level 17 that fast, while casually humiliating trained Black Iron pros, is the exact type of scaling that breaks the game's entire meta. She is literally internally debating whether she just found a generational talent or a walking cheat code. So she reaches toward her collarbones, flashing this brightly glowing pendant, and straight up asks him to carry the dungeon run. And we need to pause, because the specific angle the illustrator chose for this entire negotiation is an absolute hazard to my focus. She drops the payment details, a highly coveted Black Iron promotion gem, which she plucks right out of thin hair via the necklace, looking like an absolute magician casting a spell to make guys agree to literally whatever she wants. Jean Lee actually shows emotion for the first time all season, going wide-eyed because he recognizes that jewelry as a spatial storage artifact, meaning this girl is casually rocking a physical inventory slot around her neck, and the sheer amount of money she must come from suddenly hits him like a truck. He finds himself deadlocked on the crystal, resting right against her skin, his internal processor working overtime trying to calculate the insane market value of that gear, completely ignoring how incredibly sus it looks to be staring exactly there. Suddenly, they are both flushing deep red, because she is offering the loot, and he is just respectfully staring into the void. Neither of these two has the social stats required to navigate the thick, awkward tension that just spawned in the boss room. She quickly crosses her arms over her chest, snapping at him to quit staring at it, and the heavy vagueness of what it actually means just dealt massive critical damage to our boy's innocent reputation. Shaking it off, she breaks down the mechanics. Hitting Black Iron means you either sweat through the official trial or cheat the system by popping a promotion gem. Let's be real, at this exact moment, she could be reading off a grocery list and Zhongli would be entirely locked in. His min-maxing gamer brain finally reboots, realizing those gems are usually way too pricey to ever justify buying on his own. But with his cracked leveling pace, he's going to hard cap at 20 before the raid even finishes. Without that rank up item, all that juicy in-dungeon experience goes straight down the drain. He takes the deal, but instantly demands that Ching bench her useless bodyguards, flat out refusing to share his hard-earned experience points. With actual dead weight, the lead knight practically pops a vein in his forehead over the sheer disrespect. The squad goes ballistic, screaming that there is zero chance they are letting their Viet dive deeper into a death trap with some random solo player, and honestly, looking through their lens, This entire setup is screaming major red flags, but Ching Ching just folds her arms savagely, stating she is entirely over their whining, and commands them to pack it up and leave. The ice-cold boss energy rolling off her tone instantly reminds the whole room exactly whose bank account is funding this operation. The captain swallows his pride in case, but throws down one final condition. They have to stress test Zhongli's actual combat chops before abandoning their client, with a literal freshman inside a murder zone, which no cap is the first logical thought to ever leave this dude's mouth. He whips out his blade, aiming the steel right at Zhongli's chest from across the dirt, demanding he back up all that talk. Meanwhile, Ching Ching is just chilling on the sidelines, watching the drama pop off, looking like she specifically ordered dinner and a show for this raid, not backing down. Zhongli sparks a blazing flame in his palm, letting the knight know he is more than ready for the smoke. He better brace himself, since playing it safe simply does not exist in his playbook. We are officially looking at the fastest beatdown ever documented. Off to the side, Vivi finally closes the distance, kicking off the mandatory introduction phase between the ladies. Kingchen discovers Vivi actually goes by Shu Wei, and suddenly we witness top-tier beauty forming a connection, all while the guy they are hyper-focused on prepares to absolutely vaporize a plated warrior. 20 feet down the road, Ching Ching instantly squints, catching on to the undeniable physical proximity between Vivi and Zhongli. The envy meter is officially off the charts right now, as this love triangle constructs itself live on camera. Meanwhile, our boy remains completely blind to the romantic bloodbath brewing right above his dense skull. Ching Ching wastes 0 seconds, poking onto his bicep for a quote-unquote private chat. Vivi straight up panics, realizing the turf war has officially kicked off, and this absolute clown just stands there, looking like the last available seat on a crowded bus. But the romance plot pauses immediately way, because a level 27 nightmare, dubbed the Skeletal Dog Chieftain, spawns straight out of the shadows, dripping in toxic violet aura. This monstrosity turns the previous Wolf King into a literal teacup poodle by comparison. Just as this beast enters the shop, our guide discovers a cane-breaking glitch in his arsenal. He can dual cast abilities simultaneously. Merging them threatens to birth a completely unprecedented class of destruction that this universe has never witnessed. This absolute madman conjures a flaming sphere the size of an entire transit bus. He casually warns the armored dude that his strike runs a bit large, asking him to just tough it out. The heavily armored warrior stands frozen behind a shield, staring down a literal miniature sun falling from the sky. He manages to stutter out a complaint about facing a novice caster, but the brutal reality sinks in before he finishes speaking. Because zero rookies possess the raw output to deep fry an entire neighborhood block, every life choice flashes past this dude's retinas. He actually starts chanting his final goodbyes on loop, just to sell the tragedy, since dropping the line once lacked sufficient desperation. But then the massive flames dissolve into thin air. Right at his back, suddenly, the exact same guy who mentally drafted his testament moments prior suggests a draw, acting as if he controlled the situation. Our main character brushes the final sparks from his knuckles while flashing an unbelievably arrogant smirk. He essentially dares the guy to keep swinging if he feels lucky. I have honestly never seen a spare life handed out with such intense disrespect. This right here marks the pinnacle of pure, unfiltered delusion. The dude spins around and praises our boy's skills as decent but inferior, claiming everyone survived only because he held back his true strength. His squad drops a quick respectful nod to Ching Ching before announcing their immediate departure. The sheer velocity at which fully trained adults fled from a first-year student belongs in a tactical textbook. The second those guards vanished, Vivi dashes straight into the frame. She physically clings to his side, pleading for a permanent party invite. After surviving the absolute trauma, his clueless response a vague promise to try, but Ching Ching stands firmly in the background, analyzing the entire embrace. Her piercing gold stare basically scans his entire relationship history. She knows for a literal fact that a girlfriend was never mentioned on his profile. Intense physical contact severely triggers her defenses. Finally, the two ladies exchange formal greetings. Ching Ching establishes dominance by claiming classmate status, while Vivi brightly announces her actual name. Shu Wei caught in the middle. Our protagonist remains blissfully unaware that he is the active battleground. Ching Ching tightens her striking gaze. She internally calculates their intimacy level, instantly upgrading Vivi's threat status from random bystander to active enemy, countering instantly. She locks onto his arm and demands a highly exclusive one-on-one conversation. Vivi looks completely shell-shocked, utterly stunned by how fast the aggression leveled up. Ching Ching dives straight into his chaotic awakening process, yet this hopelessly fed dude maintains absolute eye contact and labels himself a basic spellcaster, all while hovering inches from a girl wearing the most incredibly distracting tactical gear imaginable. But then he drops a massive philosophical flex, claiming unique classes are not required for true power. The absolute adoration radiating from her eyes confirms his speech hit with maximum cinematic impact on a gorgeous woman. He leans in with a devastatingly confident smile, whispering that he forged his own path to the top. Somebody needs to hand this guy a mirror. So he realizes he is effortlessly conquering her affections entirely by accident. Mere seconds later, the grind set takes over as he boots up an agility buff, throwing himself right back into the slaughter. Because flirting fades, but leveling up is eternal, he begins violently erasing undead enemies in every direction. Those sweet 40-point experience drops are splashing across the screen like festival fireworks. The interface casually announces his promotion to level 18, proving he treats this deadly zone like a morning workout routine. Deep in the foliage, Vivi and Qing crouch together, witnessing the woodlands get completely torched. Qing questions if he constantly operates on this level of insanity. Vivi brushes it off, admitting she also panicked, initially discussing his terrifying power like a mildly annoying habit. Immediately Qing shifts into detective mode, catching on to Zhongli is literally spamming tutorial tier moves but somehow dealing in-game damage, and it is driving her absolutely insane. The stats are just not adding up. But hold on, because the difficulty is about to spike harder. The level 27 Skeleton Knight Commander finally drops into the arena, mounted on this undead steed and radiating enough dark purple aura to fuel a horror movie franchise. But the second Zhongli spots that boss health bar, he actually grins like he just hit the jackpot. He instantly summons a marshland magic circle and literally asks if there are any more bosses on the map, like he is ordering fast food. The undead general immediately blitzes forward with its bone squad, and Zhongli flexes, saying numbers do not mean a thing. That is the exact type of trash talk that either cements your legacy or sends you straight back to the lobby. His mud trap instantly locks the entire skeleton wave in place, trapping them in quicksand. Fueled by sheer disrespect, he arrogantly points out that with the right crowd control, these spooky, scary skeletons are practically zero threat, except the commander effortlessly shatters the trap, fixing its glowing red gaze on our boy with terrifying killing intent. Is basically screaming I'm not some low-tier fodder, before totally blindsiding him and ramming its undead horse into him at max velocity. The brutal collision sends Zhongli flying. He completely failed to realize how fast a creature with zero muscle mass could actually move. He gets completely ragdolled through the air, and Qing shrieks in panic. We just officially went from easy mode to a full-blown survival crisis, and the boss immediately whips around to face the girls. Apparently, this monster is programmed to hunt the squishy backline. First, Vivi absolutely loses it, realizing an armored skeleton on horseback just bumped them to the top of its hit list. But Vivi locks in, telling Qing to go rescue Zhongli while she pulls the aggro. Do not sleep on this girl, because she just willingly challenged a boss 10 levels out of her league. Without a second thought, Qing is visibly shaking, openly admitting she is scared out of her mind. Yet her face shows she is completely ready to step up and risk it all. Honestly, that one determined stare gave her more aura than the entire royal guard. But before anyone has to make a heroic sacrifice, a gigantic frost javelin tears across the battlefield. John Lee casually interrupts the panic, telling them to stand down. A frozen spear detonates directly against the skull of the commander, shattering its dark iron helmet like glass. Our guy is already standing tall, gripping his weapon, while neon blue magic surges off him in waves. It looks like taking damage just hyped him up. Qing frantically asks if he is okay, totally ignoring the fact she just watched him get run over by a literal horse. Turns out his agility buff absorbed the worst of it. If that spell was down, he would have been instantly one-shot. Basically, his plot armor was disguised as a status effect. He quickly analyzes the situation, realizing this elite enemy has ranged gap closers. He totally failed to predict. A fresh streak of blood on his cheek proves the boss music has officially kicked in. Vivi rushes over and instantly drops her recovery spells on him. I'm not gonna lie, her god tier support plays are the only reason this squad did not get squad wiped. 3 chapters back, fully restored, Zhongli launches himself back at the monster in a streak of blue lightning. This absolute madman treats lethal damage like pre-workout, but then Qing completely steals the show. She brings her hands together and summons a blinding gold aura that literally turns the dark forest into a holy sanctuary. She starts chanting ancient blessings to buff her squad and slap massive debuffs on the enemy. The illustrator drew her radiating pure goddess energy, and it is doing absolute numbers to my heart rate. That radiant energy detonates across the battleground like someone just dropped a flashbang of pure divinity. Caught in the blast zone, the undead general and its skeletal steed start physically melting from the holy pressure. It creates the ultimate window of opportunity, and someone screams to drop the Aeon nukes right now. Zhongli starts channeling massive chains of electricity, encasing his body in enough raw voltage to jumpstart an entire city grid. This specific artwork goes unfathomably hard, showing him unleashing a devastating fusion of holy and thunder magic directly into the boss. It hits like a billion-volt orbital strike, vaporizing anything unlucky enough to be in the way. Both Zhongli and Vivi are stunned by the sheer DPS output. He is shocked by the massive numbers, while Vivi quickly calculates that the holy aura is supercharging his attacks. Vivi immediately breaks down the stat boosts, because her tactical gamer brain literally never sleeps. She points out that this buff infuses the team with holy damage, inflicts heavy armor breaks, and blind statuses on the enemy, and basically acts as a massive damage multiplier. That is when the realization finally hits. Vivi Ching actually holds the hidden class known as Holy Priest, proving that this shy girl is secretly wielding the most ridiculously overpowered support role in the entire universe. She was literally masking her op status behind that innocent stare. Seriously, is every single thing about this girl absolutely top tier? Unfortunately, the commander forcibly cleanses its stun debuff and starts regenerating because a level 27 boss does not just get one tap by a single combo. Brushing off the flashy aesthetics, Zhongli barks at Xing to refresh those buffs, while Vivi instantly starts cranking up his magic DPS. Suddenly this random trio is vibing like an elite sports roster, has been grinding together for seasons on end, but the boss decides it is sick of playing turtle, and full sprint straight past the Vanguard, cunning for the squishies. It's twisted logic. If wiping the main damage dealer is impossible, it might as well erase the healers off the map. That hulking monstrosity brings its great sword crashing down like a meteor strike, instantly pulverizing the bedrock into dust. Throwing their hands up, Zhongli and Xinkyu throw down an absolute fortress of golden radiant shields just in the nick of time. The creature staggers back, screeching in pure disbelief, finally realizing this supposed trash tier squad just tanked. Its ultimate attack, a brutal counter-strike, absolutely fractures the undead overlord's skull, ripping a genuinely agonizing howl straight from its non-existent lungs. Since dropping radiant attacks on skeletons is literal aimbot behavior, a blinding column of divine energy pierces straight through the suffocating tree line. You could probably spot this beacon from miles beyond the gate, looking so high budget. It belongs in a AAA gaming trailer. As the smoke clears, this once terrifying tyrant is literally gasping for air, trembling as its entire HD pool gets absolutely melted down to one. Yet this crumbling fossil actually has the absolute nerve to shriek for a timeout, desperately begging for a few more seconds of borrowed time. Too bad Zhongli locked onto his target ages ago. Our guy literally dive bombs out of the stratosphere, weapon drawn and locked on the boss's neck. He roars his presence to the world, radiating that main character energy of a dude who has literally spent decades training for this exact fatality. That final strike slices straight through the monster's armor like a hot knife colliding through absolute butter. Freezing shock waves ripple through every single vertebra, shattering the skeleton into a million icy fragments until a revive is mathematically impossible. Touching down gracefully amid the swirling frost and bone shrapnel, Arma casually calls game over. That hyped-up level 27 menace, meant to be an absolute party wiper, just got reduced to a minor stat boost in his leveling journey. The interface immediately spams him with insane loot, bumping him to level 20, and dropping a rank C bone spear manual that basically grants homing missiles. Only one problem: his loadout is completely full, meaning he is forced into that painful gamer dilemma of choosing which trusty move gets the delete button. Plus there's a massive catch. Unlocking it demands a black iron tear, leaving the book sitting uselessly in his inventory for the time being. Right on cue, Xing slides up to his side, flashing an adorable grin before casually tossing him a black iron upgrade crystal like it is a down payment. She claims it is strictly business. Boosting his stats helps the squad survive, ensuring he does not miss out on farming future zones. Honestly, that might be the absolute slickest sugar mommy flex anyone has ever pulled. Inside a literal death trap, cheeks glowing crimson, she drops the formalities entirely, surrounded by a sudden aura of glowing effects, and shyly asks him to drop the titles and just use her first name. The illustrator cranked the romantic filter so high on this frame that my monitor started sweating. Our completely oblivious protagonist just snatches her palm into a super aggressive bro shake, promising to pay her back. Totally clueless that skin contact just made this girl's heart rate break the sound barrier. Flashing a blindingly innocent grin, he swears to double his return on investment down the road, leaving poor Xing burying her face in her hands, barely hanging on for dear life from the sheer risk. Meanwhile, the magical cherry blossoms floating around them are pushing the romance agenda way harder than they are. Cutting back to the surface world, the head bodyguard finally discovers his troops abandoned their via Paris underground. With a literal nobody, the absolute look of sheer, unadulterated terror on this guy's face deserves its own exhibit at the Louvre. Marching straight up to the portal, where his useless squad is chilling, he absolutely loses his mind, roaring at them for being so incredibly stupid. He is radiating the exact vibe of a dude who just watched his career get flushed down the toilet. A random grunt frantically attempts damage control, stammering that while Shonli might be a rookie, his stats are cracked, so they are probably totally fine down there, but the sheer panic in his voice proves he is overdosing on pure opium. Right on cue, a fresh duo drops into the scene. A battle-scarred boomer named Uncle Fu and a chunky, gobble-wearing teen who starts aggressively shouting that the vibes are entirely off. Whenever high-level backup pulls up looking distressed, you already know the plot armor is about to get tested. Suddenly a global alert flashes across the zone. The instance has forcibly mutated into a hellish abyss. Tear wasting zero time. Uncle Fu drafts every single elite player under level 25 to charge the gate immediately, screaming that the VIP is basically on death's door. Translating from gamer terms, the tutorial is over, and an absolute slaughterfest just began. Meanwhile, back in the danger zone, Vivi is chilling in the canopy playing Scout, John Lee is meditating on the forest floor to restore mana, and Xing Xing is running perimeter defense. Suddenly Vivi's radar pings hard. She whips her head around, demanding whoever is hiding to show themselves. Stepping out of the darkness is a gigantic razor-sharp talon leaking pure, suffocating malice. A deep, sinister voice echoes from the void, questioning if they are the rats invading its territory. Just sizing up that single foot is enough to confirm this is not some throwaway mini-boss. The nightmare steps forward, parting its jaws to reveal endless rows of meat-shredding fangs. It flashes a twisted smile, clapping back with a compliment for trashing its underlings right before dropping a terrifying. But that notification hits like a straight-up death warrant. The shadows peel back, revealing the ultimate nightmare, a level 30 raid boss named Dark Mage Gyrubai, towering above our trio, and casually announcing that they are about to become past tense. The power disparity here. Absolute insanity, enough to make a hardcore gamer smash their keyboard. Qingqing goes completely pale, her expression practically screaming pure panic, because raid bosses do not just roam around hunting players. The game mechanics are officially broken, and just when you think the vibe cannot get any darker, the camera pans to Zhongli, totally grounded in a meditative trance, absorbing the promotion gem. As he forces a rank ascension, Qingqing clocks the reality instantly. Snapping him out of this state means instant death, so their heavy hitter is currently a sitting target. Clenching her jaw, she whispers that they have to run the clock. Right on cue, heavy steel crashes against the stone behind her back as a squad of armored knights flexes their intro. Uncle Fu and his rescue team literally speed ran the entire zone just to make the save, sprinting forward. The veteran desperately checks if his young lady is safe, hearing his voice. Qingqing breathes out his name, completely shedding her panic aura, now that the heavy cavalry has arrived. Without missing a beat, the backup squad rushes the monster, forcing Gyrubai actually look down and mumble about the extra bodies. This proves the twisted sorcerer fully planned a 3 versus 1 slaughter and got caught slipping, but the Dark Mage gives zero cares about the numbers disadvantage, labeling them as minor bugs before weaving his hands to trigger a massive earth tremor technique, because when you are level 30, backup is just extra fodder. Jagged amethyst pillars explode upward, turning the floor into a literal meat grinder, launching armored guards into the stratosphere. Covered in dust, the squad captain staggers up and drops a wild taunt, mocking the monster for relying on its high stats, claiming it lacks real skill. Honestly, this is the second time today this dude has barked at an ended. I could vaporize him, and I am convinced his survival instincts are broken. Gyrubai has not even blinked. Instead, he casually spawns an apocalyptic black hole right above the captain, literally eclipsing the ceiling. The completely humbled guard just stares up, barely choking out a bewildered gasp. Then the void rips open, birthing an absolute unit that instantly makes the previous undead mini-boss feel like the tutorial level. The skyscraper-sized fiend slams onto the battlefield, fracturing the bedrock upon impact. System flashes a terrifying title, Lord Demon Lord. The behemoth stretches its wings, bellowing out to demand who dragged it from the underworld. The spectacled squad mate loses his absolute mind, shrieking its species name, because dragging a deep abyss fiend into a doomed raid is insane. Dropping to his knees, Gyrubai bows deepless, presenting the trapped humans as a fresh meat platter for his master. Yeah, the main villain literally just tossed the entire server population into the blender to feed a beast, rocking stats way above their pay grade, peering down at the trembling party. The gargantuan beast scoffs, highly offended by the low-tier snacks, giving off massive disappointed birthday vibes. The monster chuckles darkly, roasting them by claiming they barely qualify as dental floss. Down in the crater, the veteran warriors and spellcasters just drop their weapons, mentally logging out. The whole chat is basically spamming game over, crying that their run is finished, and to be real, the vibe is completely chalked. Every single person has given up, until a razor-sharp voice shatters the silence, chillingly asking who they plan on sacrificing. The massive overlord actually pivots, utterly bewildered that a piece of trash mob is talking back to an apocalyptic threat. The dust clears, revealing Zhongli standing tall from his meditation, surrounded by glowing interface panels confirming his rank up to Black Iron Tier. His character sheet upgrades, unlocking a brand new skill slot, granting him the broken ability to dual cast magic. Smirking at his squad, he orders them to stand their ground, because the meta just shifted. A cinematic tight shot captures his neon blue gaze as he coldly announces that this fight is far from over. The raw main character energy in this frame, it's harder than the entire Royal Guard roster put together. Watching from the sideline, Uncle Fu identifies the skeletal magic as a forbidden abyss tier technique, leaving his jaw on the floor as he tries to calculate who this absolute powerhouse really is. Even so, the old man doubts a fresh Black Iron rookie can scratch a boss. Well, watch this. Our boy unleashes a relentless barrage of jagged bone missiles straight at the Titan, delivering a high-velocity middle finger to the dark realm. The projectiles punch right through its impenetrable scales, sending dark blood exploding into the air from a creature that literally viewed them as protein shakes. The sheer whiplash on the face of the monster is absolute cinematic gold. Its arrogant smirk instantly melts into pure, unadulterated wrath as it screams out a lethal promise. The sonic boom of its anger literally warps the atmosphere. Uncle Fu is completely stunned at the shadow magic actually landed a critical hit, yet his combat experience screams that one hit point drop will not win the war. He makes the split-second tactical decision to go all in, knowing that playing defense here just delays the inevitable. Rallying every breathing soul in the cavern, he calls for an absolute suicide charge, screaming at them to form a wall around the heiress. For the first time since this raid started, the panicked extras finally lock in like hardcore veterans, rather than useless background props. The collective guild burns their cooldown, sparking a massive pyrotechnic explosion right across the chest of the behemoth. The whole area erupts into a blinding pyrotechnic nightmare through the chaos. Uncle Fu snaps his gaze to Zhongli, screaming at him to get the lady out of this death trap. Watching this grizzled veteran willingly plant his feet to face down a literal demon lord, just so the rookies can bowl. That is the kind of heroic final stand that absolutely guts you. Surrounded by a roaring inferno, the old man readies his weapon and drops the ultimate heavy responsibility right onto Zhongli's shoulder. You can see the chilling peace in the veteran's eyes. He already knows he is punching a one-way ticket straight to the afterlife today. But Garabai is totally overplaying nice. With mere mortals he channels a toxic violet nuke, so insanely dense that reality itself starts bending around the blast, shrieking about crushing pathetic bugs, signaling that the raid boss phase just locked in, and the kid glows are officially off. Then a shockwave hits. A tidal wave of violet destruction vaporizes everything in its path, completely swallowing the arena. Can the old man actually tank this? Can Zhongli keep the squad breathing? Can a newly minted Black Iron Mage actually kite an apocalyptic threat? The suspense is literally keeping me on the edge of my seat. Suddenly a figure tears through the toxic smoke. It is Uncle Fu, weapon gleaming. He bellows a furious war cry, charging him like a warrior, totally at peace with his own doom. The absolute shockwave of his brilliant golden strut, smashing into the demon's apocalyptic void blast, triggers an explosive eruption that feels like two divine beings tearing the atmosphere apart. The debris clears. The absolute legend is miraculously still on his feet, lungs burning for oxygen, knuckles white around the violently shaking hilt. Corrupt energy sizzles across his battered form, crimson stains soak through his heavy plating, while he spits venomous curses at the monster through a clenched jaw because he dumped his entire stat bar into that one clash, and it barely made a dent. So the veteran pulls the ultimate Chad move. When the power scaling breaks, he opts to blow every last drop of his mana on a suicide strike, just to buy the VIP a few precious seconds. Even knowing it is going to flatline him, he rockets skyward, screaming out his ultimate skill. Sword of Judgment, a blinding, radiant aura engulfs his weapon as he brings it crashing down toward the monster's skull, looking like the literal wrath of heaven. The steel dead-ass smashes right into the beast's defense. A fireworks display of radiant energy explodes off its impenetrable scales, forcing the colossal threat to stumble, completely stunned by the audacity. But before the old man can even crack a smile, a brutal retaliation obliterates his defenses, shattering his stance and flooding his nervous system with pure agony. The Titanic boss grips the grizzled warrior by the skull like he is a cheap toy, mocking his pathetic power level. Just seeing their silhouettes side by side is giving heavy vibes of a heavyweight champion bullying a helpless kitten. With a flick of its wrist, he eats the veteran across the battlefield with the effortless brutality of flicking away a mosquito. The veteran gets launched through the air like a broken rag doll, slamming into the earth with a sickening crack that guarantees multiple ribs just snapped in half. Ching Ching shrieks his name, absolutely paralyzed by panic, and the usually stone-cold Zhongli visibly snaps out of his calm demeanor, because witnessing your high-level carry it completely low diff fundamentally rewrites the survival odds. The desperate voice begs the old man to fall back while the boss stomps through the rubble, exuding an oppressive aura that feels like the sky is caving in. The monster eclipses the battered warrior, smirking at their pathetic arrogance as the veteran struggles just to keep his eyes open. But right as the executioner readies the final strike, a literal iceberg weaponizes. A gargantuan razor-sharp crystalline spear shreds through the atmosphere, locked onto the Titan's blind spot. It blasts into the behemoth with unholy kinetic energy, forcing this literal walking catastrophe to stumble. For the very first time in this entire raid, something actually broke its combo. Jolie hones in on that split-second window, roaring at the squad to make their move while the battered veteran bleeds out on the floor, and this absolute madman is dead-ass, stepping up to 1v1 the nightmare that just team-wiped them. The old man desperately drags himself away, while Jolie taunts the boss, sliding right past a lethal right hook. With the insane evasion of a daredevil who forgot what fear feels like, the Titan's features contort into demonic fury, bellowing a thunderous demand to know who has the nerve. Sounding like an emperor who just took a pie to the face from a street rat, the dust clears to reveal Jolie, a rookie black iron mage casually holding a frost-forged polearm pulsing with neon azure mana, calmly announcing he is taking over the fight. The sheer disrespect is off the charts. He rockets straight at the giant, slicing into its impenetrable height with blistering spear combos, while loudly commanding the healers to start doing their jobs. This absolute psycho is casually micromanaging his squad, while boxing and God. The veteran screams from the sidelines, furious that the rookie abandoned the escort mission just to jump into the meat grinder, begging and runs so the seniors can finish the job. But Jolie instantly hits him with a hard rejection, declaring he already mapped out the boss's exact vulnerability. The icy conviction in his tone is downright terrifying. Even the demonic tire is low-key panicking, wiping blood off its face while glitching over how a low-tier scrub is dual-wielding magic, a feat that literally breaks the game's mechanics for his ranked. What they are witnessing is an absolute masterclass. John Lee fusing two distinct elemental classes into a totally unrecorded hybrid meta, manifesting a devastating glacial edge on his weapon. The Titan is absolutely molding over being treated like a test dummy. It screams about inferior trash with such raw hatred, you can tell its pride just suffered a lethal critical hit. The monster lunges straight for the kill, shrieking about absolute blasphemy, like seriously being a bottom-tier iron mage who casually solos high-level threats is basically illegal down in the abyss. But our guy Jolie just pops his speed scale and dances around this monster's haymaker like he is playing on 0.5 speed. The distance between that crater and where he is actually standing is straight up mocking the poor guy. Then he totally flips the script, spanning his frost lance right into the creature's wings. It is absolutely shrieking while he slices it apart like a holiday turkey. And then this total savage actually has the audacity to crack a smile and casually drop the fact that its wings are its fatal flaw. You cannot make this up. Bro is acting like he just aced a biology final. The beast's wings are completely mangled, and Jolie deadpan tells the thing its spellcasting days are over, leaving the monster completely stuttering and demanding to know how he figured it out. With the boss's entire kit utterly neutralized, our boy literally starts giving a TED talk mid-bow about his academy's anti-monster curriculum, hyping up how these abyssal freaks are mankind's ultimate ops. But on the inside he is sweating bullets, knowing the core's location is a total coin toss. It is straight up RNG at this point. Suddenly both fiends burst out laughing, as Garubai gladly points out their insane regeneration stats. As paper cuts, they're going to patch themselves up in seconds, meaning our squad is officially on a hardcore timer. Here is where things take a super dark turn. Garubai randomly bolts straight for the boss, shrieking about needing a massive energy top off. Right now even the big bad looks caught off guard. For a split second, the minion starts pleading for its life while our crew just stares in absolute shock, knowing deep down that whatever drops next is going to be terrible for the good guys. The supreme boss snatches Garubai up and literally chugs its own henchman like a post-workout smoothie. I guess underworld loyalty comes with a strict shelf life, and it just expired. Garubai gets swallowed whole while agonizingly wailing, and the big bad loudly crunches on its underling stats like popcorn at a cinema. Only this time the monster is the main event. The overarching villain's physique starts violently expanding from the stolen stats, veins popping as pure shadow magic floods into its corrupted veins. Then the interface flashes a pop-up that legitimately gives me chills. Boss Phase 2 is officially unlocked, and the threat level is off the charts. Now this monstrosity is glaring at our squad. With enough raw fury to vaporize titanium, it roars out a death threat to the puny mortals, and blast fires a massive purple death laser right at our MC. The sheer kinetic force sends Jolie scraping across the shattered dirt like a tossed toy. For the first time in this entire clash, our guy is getting pushed back without a snarky combat. His brain is going into overdrive, figuring out that while his maxed out dodge stats might save his neck, his barrier magic will absolutely shatter against this newly buffed damage output. Just as things look grim, a blinding gold aura coats his body. The interface absolutely loses its mind, announcing his spell damage just multiplied by 2. No, multiplied by 3. The plug is Ching Ching holding it down in the backline, shining like a literal lighthouse, spamming every enhancement spell in her arsenal. The combat log is just throwing up crazy numbers. At this point, armor boosted, movement maxed, HP passively ticking up. She basically just hard-coded Zhongli into a glitch. The demonic overlord catches sight of this glowing squad, lighting up the horizon, and actually looks baffled for a second. It is like watching a bunch of bugs suddenly gear up for war, brushing them off as annoying gnats. The behemoth violently lunges forward, and its twisted head hitting phase 2 means the talking stops. Even Zhongli feels the killing intent spike, quietly cursing about how rough this is, when a confident main character says, "We have a problem, you know. Things just leveled up from sketch to a guaranteed squad wipe." The beast shrieks for their heads and bombs straight toward the back line. But with his velocity buff cranked to 300, this madman literally teleports across the zone. Like his collision physics just glitched out. He drops anchor dead center between the monster and the girls, weapon drawn, barrier raise. The visual of Ching Ching and Vivi sheltered safely behind his back while he stares down an apocalyptic raid boss is sending his main character energy straight to the moon. He triggers his radiant guard skill and an explosive gold aura locks around his gauntlets. The prompt confirms his blocking stats just doubled for a second time, turning him into an impenetrable brick wall. The beast's devastating slam crashes into his shield, sending out a shockwave that completely deletes the forest behind him. Our boy does not even flinch, but hold up, the nightmare is not over. The fiend starts mutating again, its flesh rotting into a nauseating green and leaking venomous goo, looking like it just took a bath in the underworld's most radioactive sewer. Its massive claws sink into a pool of glowing acid, and suddenly the beast looks totally lost, wondering why the solid dirt is suddenly dragging it down like a tar pit. Surprise. Zhongli was already 2 steps ahead. He barks at the freak to stay put as a brilliant rune explodes around the creature, completely freezing its limbs. With hard crowd control and a massive debuff standing tall defending his squad, Zhongli practically whispers, "Time for a little demonstration." Flexing the absolute aura of a dude teaching a master class on why his team is off limits, he unleashes a crazy hybrid spell, Thunder Swarm, blending raw high voltage strikes with mud sorcery. The beast gets absolutely fried inside its own cage, while hopelessly trying to tear its way out. The boss is officially soft locked. Blue electricity surges through the monster's veins. It lets out a guttural roar, completely paralyzed, realizing that, for the absolute first time in this entire showdown, the tables have totally turned. Uncle Fu spots the opening and starts screaming at anyone holding support gear to spam every single power-up straight onto Zhang Lai. He is literally their only ticket out of this dungeon. Alive, the system interface goes absolutely feral. 600, 700, 1000 damage boost, guys. That is not a power-up, that is a straight-up Geneva Convention violation. The boss spots our boy closing the distance. It charges a massive beam right in its jaw, screeching about his sheer audacity, because even while pinned down, this beast packs enough heat to erase an entire neighborhood. It unleashes the beam at point-blank range, calling him a massive idiot. Right as crimson plasma nukes the whole battlefield, for a split second you would swear Jiang Lei just got deleted from existence, but now the goat rips straight through the inferno, gripping a blazing polearm, using an art so insanely cracked that the flames twist into a literal tornado, barreling dead center for the monster's chest. Direct hit, the scorching blade carves right through mutated muscle, proving exactly why a 1000 damage multiplier is absolutely broken. The fiend shrieks cheap parlor tricks, thrashing around trying to crush him. Bro, it is taking a giant metal spike to the ribs and still acting tough. The sheer ego on this creature needs its own area code. Suddenly, a massive swarm of flaming bone projectiles fires off like a military airstrike, locking onto every single weak spot Zhongli can see. Total bullseye, they shred through the monster from a dozen different angles, painting the walls red for the very first time. This boss actually looks mortal, but then Jiang Li catches a weird detail and just casually drops the fact that the beast is protecting its skull. Way too hard, the monster scoffs back. Who cares if you figured it out right, as it frantically shields its face from a blast that just popped off near its brain, which is literally the same energy as tossing a blanket over a dead body and asking what body. Jiang Li immediately unleashes his brand new combo right into the creature's face. It is an explosive bone spike, a sick hybrid of magic and physical damage that erupts deep inside the flesh. Like a stick of dynamite in a blender, the monster's head gets completely swallowed by flames. He does not even blink before falling out with a gigantic, glacial spike formation. He yells that this is the endgame, and rams the freezing artillery directly into the unprotected, demonic heart, but the frost spike actually shatters inside the beast's cranium, and the agonizing shriek that rips out literally causes the whole cave system to earthquake. Vivian and the kid with the goggles cautiously peek out from the rubble, whispering to see if the nightmare is finally done. And real talk, I desperately need this fight to end, because my blood pressure has been through the roof for the past 40 chapters. Spoiler alert, it is not a sinister, glowing crimson pupil cuts right through the ash cloud, and a deep rumbling chuckle echoes out. I swear that one single stare has more villain aura than every antagonist I have ever seen. On screen, the monstrosity steps out of the smog, sneering, "What a shame, what an absolute shame." It still eclipses Jolie completely, making Armek look like a literal bug standing at its feet. Get this, the boss still has enough HP left to drop some trash talk. It smugly flexes that little stunt was their one and only shot at victory, and they completely fumbled. The giant frozen spear lodged in its chest starts sliding out like a tiny toothpick from a brick wall, but suddenly it stutters. The beast realizes its flesh is not stitching back together. Total panic sets in as it screeches, "What did you do to my body?" Watching a raid boss have an absolute mental breakdown is genuinely a top-tier cinematic experience. The camera pans right into Qiangli's face, rocking the most disrespectful smirk a low-tier mage has ever pulled off. He casually shrugs and says he just cast a basic debuff to tank its speed. Bro secretly nerfed the monster's regeneration while it was busy giving a villain speech. That is hands down the most savage, big brain play of the entire season so far. The beast calls him absolute scum, raging about how some cheap gimmicks could never actually take down a supreme boss. But honestly, the cold sweat rolling down its ugly face completely exposes that those little gimmicks are hitting incredibly hard. Our guy just raises his hand, frost sparking off his fingertips. He tilts his head and mocks, "Oh, please do not tell me you thaw," wearing a smile that belongs on a grim reaper. Clocking in for a shift, he stares the creature down, asking if it seriously believed that he only shot a single projectile. Boom. Hidden frost missiles in every single blind spot light up at once and skew the monstrosity from 6 totally different angles. Like a perfectly timed demolition, the icy payload shreds right through the boss's core, all at the exact same time. The beast only manages to gasp out a pathetic "impossible" before completely bursting apart into chunks. And guys, this is exactly what you get when you sleep on the quiet kid who actually did the homework. The raid boss violently erupts in the background while our boy just stands there in the crater exhaling, handled right on cue. The interface pops up to casually announce he just skyrocketed 5 whole ranks up to level 25 because, as it turns out, one-shotting a dungeon boss drops some ridiculously juicy experience. The whole squad starts losing their minds as level up alerts start flooding the screen, boosting everyone by 2 full ranks. Vivian collapses, crying out that the nightmare is finally wrapped up. A literal overlord just got turned into the absolute best loot drop in the history of this game. Uncle Fu observes Armek from the sidelines, mentally calculating that this kid is destined to become a god-tier legend. He decides right then and there to keep their guild firmly on his good side. Hyatt play right there, bro. Just bumped Jolie up from temporary muscle to top-tier stock, but Jolie, he is deep in the trenches of his own brain. Realizing standard Black Iron mages absolutely cannot fire off 2 spells at once, he starts piecing it together, guessing that maxing out every single skill must have triggered some insane hidden passive. My guy literally broke the matrix without even knowing the cheat code. Right on cue, 2 armor-clad bodyguards start yapping. They actually claim they could have dropped that demon if they had the same buffs. Honestly, that is the most concentrated dose of copium I have ever seen random NPCs huff in my life. Vivi and Ching Ching slide up to our boy. Ching Ching immediately shuts down her guards. Absolute garbage take, while Vivi straight up admits he carried the whole raid. 2 gorgeous girls making a beeline for the MC. Right after the boss drops, the harem protocol is running flawlessly. But then our clueless king casually drops us. "So what are you doing later?" Zero idea. He is being low-key flirted with by 2 absolute queens at the exact same time. Naturally, that question just dialed attention to 11. Vivi goes full anime sparkles. She vows to grind her levels, shyly asking to party up once she actually has the stats to match him. The studio drenched this girl in so much glowing filter. I need sunglasses, looking way too flawless for a girl who almost just became Demon Chow. Then Ching Ching steps up. Pink petals literally spawn in the air around her as she confesses she wants to stick by his side too. How does Jolie react? Bro just blinks with me, he asks, cementing his status as the most romantically brain-dead dude breathing. Luckily, Uncle Fu slides in to decode the situation for our dense hero. He smoothly explains the young miss is officially inviting him back to her estate, causing Ching Ching to scurry away, blushing hard. Get this boomer a medal, he just wingman for his boss. Zhongli flashes a clueless grin, rubs the back of his neck, and walks in the RSVP. He completely dodges the romantic vibes, treating a literal date proposal like a mandatory corporate video call. Uncle Fu then guides him to a mountain of loot, radiating so much energy it practically blinds you. The old man insists Zhongli bags the whole stack, since he basically hard carry the boss fight. A shiny gold chest sits right in the middle. Our guy is about to feast. The first unboxing yields a silver tier Shadowfang staff and a legendary gold tier demon cloak. That cape packs a built-in radar called Demon's Eye that exposes invisible enemies. Let us be real, Zhongli is currently dripping in so much premium gear that average silver players look like they are fighting in cheap pajamas. However, the true holy grail drops are next. An Abyss Pass, unlocking floor 1 of the actual underworld, plus a gold tier Abyss Stone, capable of forcing any random weapon straight up to gold rarity. Only just rolled a 5-star on his first try. 0 microtransactions needed. Uncle Fu practically goes into cardiac arrest. Spotting that stone, he stammers out that this rock turns absolute trash into god-tier weaponry, but it requires a master smith to socket it. Bro is trembling just staring at it. This right here reveals how the blue star meta actually functions. You have an entire underground economy of chefs, potion makers, and blacksmiths. These non-combat classes carry the weight of human society on their backs without ever stepping onto a battlefield. Pin that thought, because that lower drop is crucial. Later, Uncle Fu hooks him up with intel about a guy named Manager Lin over at the Golden Dragon Treasure Pavilion, the dude who apparently has the ultimate blacksmith on speed dial. Jean Lee snaps to attention, realizing that was his next waypoint anyway. The squad finally goes their separate ways. Down a shadowy trail, Ching Ching hits him with a cute wave. Vivi drops one last lingering glance, and Armic marches straight for the pavilion, rocking a fresh staff, a boss cape, and an underworld Viet pass burning in his pocket. His daily to-do list just morphed into the absolute highest stakes supply run in the sector. He finally pulls up to the Golden Dragon Pavilion. Out in Rosetown, the architecture is drenched in moonlight, flexing like a billionaire's modern mansion. He steps through the doors, and the first NPC he runs into is a pink-haired receptionist wearing an outfit so physically defiant, I am shocked the studio did not get censored. She tells him to hold tight, strutting off in stilettos that defy the laws of gravity. They usher our guy straight into the Viet lounge. Zhongli immediately zones out, staring at a chandelier worth more than his entire bloodline, calculating how much the crystal alone would fetch on the black market. Enter Manager Lin. He waddles in, looking like the textbook greedy merchant stereotype. Pudgy stomach, slit tie, full capitalist aura. Barmek is not here to socialize, flat out demanding to liquidate his inventory. Lin starts crunching the numbers. Just the trash tier bronze drops total up to 25 million bucks. That is the exact kind of bag that turns a broke rookie mage into a guy who orders Wagyu beef on a random Tuesday. However, the vibe instantly shifts when Lin analyzes the shadow stealth manual and that silver tier Gale bow. The merchant drops his mask straight up, confessing his wallet is not deep enough to buy them, outright pitching a high-stakes barter instead. No straight cash though. Meanwhile, the bunny suit girl is literally breathing down their necks, staring at this deal like her life depends on it. Speaking of our girl, she is visibly shook, practically hyperventilating over how this is the most insane flex she has ever witnessed. And you guys gotta understand, the artist literally drew a reaction like a high-fashion perfume commercial. Jean Lee casually drops a shopping list like he is pulling up to a fast food drive-thru. Put up the loot for trade, snatch any mage skill manuals or gear, and throw a bronze promotion orb in the bag too. Just take it out of my tap. The girl scrambles to get it done, all while Manager Lin watches her walk away, with his hand resting in a spot that would instantly trigger an HR investigation. Lin leans over his steaming teacup, smoothly asking for the name of his brand new favorite client. The absolute second Zhongli drops his name, a dangerous spark flashes behind those tiny round glasses. Because Lin instantly clocks that hitting this tier barely 48 hours after awakening is literally impossible in this entire city. Zhongli glares, demanding to know how the hell Lin tracked his awakening date. Lin completely sheds the nice guy persona, dropping the bombshell that the Golden Dragon Pavilion operates an underground spy network so deep that if your pockets are heavy enough, they can expose anyone's darkest secrets. And those shadowy informant silhouettes lurking in the background make that threat hit incredibly hard. But this is where Zhongli proves he is not just pure brawn and mana. Instead of flinching, he smoothly flips the script and demands a hookup for a blacksmith who can forge a gemstone. Lin smirks, bragging that he happens to have a master on speed dial. The bunny girl struts back in with the trade receipt, and the low camera angle the artist chose for her entrance is an absolute visual attack on the viewers, because they fully committed to the ground level perspective. And honestly, we are absolutely not complaining. Along with his gear, she slides Zhongli a massive flex, a purple gold dragon card, rating him a flat 10 discount on literally everything inside the pavilion for life, meaning our guy just ran his way straight into ultra VIP status just by flipping some trash mob dropped. Then she pops open a velvet box to reveal the bronze promotion orb pulsing with blue energy like a high-end jeweler flexing a massive diamond ring. And I am fighting for my life, trying to stare at the shiny magic ball instead of the insane view right above it. Zhongli slams his hand onto the desk like a boss, locking in a choice manager. Lin finalizes the tag at 16 million for the item, casually calling it a homie hookup, which is the exact type of fake generosity merchants only pull when they smell a massive long-term cash cow. Zhongli runs the mental math. Standard street value sits at 20 million. The VIP card drops it to 18. But Lin practically threw away another 2 million on top of that, and this absolute menace is already plotting how to milk this connection dry. So he looks Lin dead in the eye and promises that every single drop he ever farms comes straight to the shop. And Lin starts glowing like he just hit the lottery, fully aware he just secured the fastest leveling powerhouse in all of Qin City. He also drops the crafter plug, a gold tier legend named Wang Yan, who was temporarily crashing in town, posted up at the Wenshan courtyard over on the East Block, and John Lee just needs to drop Lin's name to get past the velvet rope. Meanwhile, the bunny girl is still standing there, making sure I never forget she exists. John Lee tosses a thank you and tries to pay for the tip, but Lin brushes it off like spare change. But do not get it twisted, that dude is heavily investing in John Lee's future bat, and he knows exactly what he is doing. Fast forward to the next morning, our guy pulls up to Wenshan courtyard and instantly gets completely rejected by security because the big boss put the whole place on do not disturb, which totally screams that this crafter is suffering from some massive main character syndrome himself. But then Zhongli whips out the abyss stone, blazing blood red and leaking enough raw demonic aura to literally make the oxygen sizzle, stating he needs Master Wang Yan to socket this beast. He seamlessly name-drops Manager Lin from the Golden Dragon Pavilion, telling the bouncer to go fetch his boss. Over the deafening crashes of the forge in the back, a gruff voice screams out to open the gates, and the bouncer straightens up, instantly looking like a fresh recruit who just realized the commander is watching, and boom, there he is. Master Wang Yan is an absolute unit, built like a tank who has been smashing steel since before our boy was even a thaw, rocking no-shirt muscles stacked on top of muscles, a fiery red beard, and a greasy headband that has definitely absorbed more sweat than a locker room towel. Zhongli starts hyping him up as the absolute goat of Qin City crafters, but Wang Yan instantly swats away the glaze, cuts right through the small talk, and demands to see the gem, proving this dude does not play games with his schedule. The exact millisecond Wang Yan locks onto the abyss stone, his entire vibe flips, realizing he is staring at a pure gold tier gem. Bro looks like a man dying of thirst who just found an oasis. He straight up confesses that even a top tier gold rank smith like him almost never gets his hands on premium gold materials. He is looking at John Lee with total respect, now admitting the kid must have some insane mafia level connections. But then the vibe gets super heavy because the fail rate for blindly brute forcing a gold gem socketing job, the risk of failure sky high. Wang Yan doesn't sugarcoat it, warning our boy to brace himself for the very real chance this priceless artifact just shatters into worthless dust. But the blacksmith doesn't just crush his hopes, his grip tightens around the gem. He pitches a wildcard trade. See, he's forging a masterpiece that's sitting at 99 completion, begging for one final drop of loot, the fang of a thunder crocodile alpha. Snagging that specific drop wouldn't just finish his ultimate weapon, it would massively spike the success rate of the gem. Fusion Zhongli immediately offers to run the errand, but Wan Jian hits him with a reality check. This elf isn't just strong, it's a paranoid camper deep inside the Thundering Marsh, actively dodging any player boasting a rank higher than Black Iron. Top-tier hunters sweep the zone and pull absolutely zero aggro, while this overgrown lizard just lounges in the mud, living its best life. But for Zhongli, a Black Iron mage, this restriction is basically a VIP pass. With his name on, he doesn't even hesitate if it secures the upgrade. He is locking in. This absolute madman spins around, declaring he's rolling out immediately, telling the blacksmith to keep the forge warm. Wang Yan just chuckles in the background, genuinely stunned that anyone would hype themselves up this much for a miserable mud-crawling fetch quest. But John Lee barely takes 10 steps outside before a squad of heavy-duty thugs walls him in. Hey punk, they bark. Embrace yourselves for this, because these guys just cornered the absolute worst NPC possible. The ringleader, a walking tank wrapped in steel, starts barking out a bomby description. Mid-20s, sharp killer eyes, dripping with combat aura and the venom in his voice. Yet this vendetta is deeply personal. A rapid-fire flashback hits Shonli, some random fighter getting totally folded, and he just casually goes, "Oh, that dude," matching the exact vibe of someone leaving a bad Yelp review. He drops a flat nope and sidesteps to leave, but the armored meathead snatches his collar, roaring at him to freeze. Turns out, the guildmaster's youngest kid just got wiped from the server. The crime scene screams magic damage, and since Shonli is currently breathing while holding a staff in broad daylight, the Blood Wolf mercenaries instantly label him public enemy #1, promising to introduce him to a world of pain purely on suspicion. John Lee locks eyes with this steroid-infused boulder, and drops the stone-cold "I said no," flexing that unbothered aura you only get after soloing a literal demon lord. He pivots and walks off, leaving Chendong fuming in his dust. The way his cloak billows in the wind, pure unfiltered disrespect. No trash talk required, triggered beyond belief. This bald thug decides to forcefully educate the arrogant caster. He lunges forward, completely blind to the massive mistake he's making. The crowd immediately starts buzzing. Whispers ripple through the street, identifying the giant as Chendong, the ruthless vice captain of the Blood Wolves. Gossip flows that the boss's golden child suffered a brutal end, turning the entire syndicate into a pack of rabid dogs out for revenge. One gutsy civilian mutters that these mercenaries have been terrorizing the server for way too long, and karma is bound to catch up. Preferably 6 feet deep. His buddy instantly clamps a hand over his mouth, because the Blood Wolf Guild Master isn't just a thug, he's a heavy-hitting bronze tier elite, backed by a whole roster of bronze enforcers, ready to instantly delete anyone who talks smack. They run the streets like a certified mafia. Up ahead, Zhongli tosses a glance over his shoulder, instantly clocking that he just pulled some incredibly tedious aggro. But here is the kicker: minor annoyance is the absolute maximum emotion these clowns will ever squeeze out of our guy. Fast forward, he steps into the thundering marsh, and the biome is absolutely infested with colossal bugs and mutant beasts, the kind of mobs that make regular predators look like grumpy hamsters. And what does our resident psycho do? He instantly uses the Death Zone as his personal sandbox, slamming down a blinding golden magic circle that instantly deletes every living thing in its blast radius. It's called Rain of Fire, and the devs named it perfectly. He is literally carpet bombing the entire swamp with meteors, turning every critter in rendering distance into crispy bacon. He just stands there in the epicenter of an inferno, casually gripping his newly minted Shadow Fawn staff, embers swirling around him, radiating a terrifying boss aura that a black iron mage has absolutely zero right to possess. But look at him. That chaotic grin says everything. The area of effect damage scaling on this skill is busted, wiping out mobs 10 times faster than his basic arcane bolt. He literally just unlocked the ultimate cheat code for farming. Suddenly, the brush twitches. Zhongli pauses his grind session, his relaxed smirks snapping into pure stone. His radar pings someone has been stalking his coordinates through the mud. And you guys remember that cursed cloak he looted from the raid boss? The built-in passive Demon's Eye completely negates invisibility, and it just triggered talk about clutch timing. Right there in the shadows, a neon blue outline is perfectly visible, hugging the dirt. Baro currently relying on stealth commo, completely oblivious that they've been spotted. Young Lee can track every single twitch of their muscles, glowing like a high-tier loot drop. But right as he prepares to punish the stalker, the swamp explodes, sending a tidal wave of toxic sludge flying, getting totally blindsided, because apparently the map itself wants a piece of the action today. Enter level 29, the Green Vein. Serpent King breaches the surface like a skilly skyscraper, but looking up at this nightmare fuel, fear isn't even on Zhongli's radar. Major letdown right here. This oversized noodle completely missed the mark. Dude was hunting for the elusive thunder crocodile, not some random reptile breathing out a heavy sigh. He realizes tracking down the croc alpha is gonna be a massive headache. Suddenly, the Serpent King snaps its jaws right at his face, flashing dagger-length fangs with absolutely zero boundaries. Jun Li effortlessly sidesteps the fatal chomp and immediately slices into the beast's scales. He is casually throwing hands with the monster 4 tiers higher than him, treating the whole brawl like a pregame stretch. Meanwhile, buried deep in the foliage, a shadowed assassin grips their dagger, creeping on the entire showdown. So our boy is soloing a major boss, while some random camper chills in the VIP section, waiting to third-party him without missing a beat. Zhongli pivots straight toward the brush, ordering the creepy stalker to drop the stealth act and step up. The utter panic on the spy's face screams that their flawless stealth just got totally wrecked. Hiding is useless now. So Chendong struts out of the shadows, flanked by his entire Blood Wolf posse. He cackles about finally cornering our guy, plus they get a free elite monster kill. As a bonus, talk about hitting the jackpot. This goon squad swarms the zone, strapped with heavy artillery, barking that offing their boss's kid crossed a permanent line. Chendong glares down at Jolin, acting like the execution orders were already signed. In blood, not a single muscle twitches on Zhongli's face as he stares dead ahead, dryly demanding to see the receipts. Honestly, hitting an ambush party with a pix or it didn't happen is peak ice-cold energy furious. Qindong crushes his massive club straight into the dirt, shattering the ground completely, and drops the most room temperature ick threat ever. If I claim you caught a body, and you caught the freaking body. Clearly, these hired guns skip the chapter on actual evidence. Instantly, Zhongli conjures a massive barricade of glowing frost spears that illuminate the dark woods. Oh, perfect timing, he mutters, flashing a wicked grin, like he just drew the ultimate reverse Uno card. Why? Because that giant snake isn't dead yet, and it is absolutely raging, twisting its gigantic scaly bulk across the combat zone. Caught between a furious boss and armed thugs, Zhongli formulates a god-tier strategy. In milliseconds, he unleashes a colossal glacier spike, driving it violently through the Serpent King's cranium. The icy blast detonates on impact with terrifying power, sending massive shock waves ripping through the dirt. The gargantuan reptile goes completely limp, plummeting directly toward the terrified mercenary crew like a falling skyscraper. These absolute clowns suddenly have to dive for their lives to dodge a colossal carcass they didn't even touch, bro. Literally weaponized their own ambush against them. The entire blood wolf roster freezes in pure, unadulterated terror, realizing this random teen just one-tapped a level 29 delete boss. Their single-cell brains are practically short-circuiting, desperately calculating how fast they are about to get wiped. Right on cue, Zhongli pivots toward them, coat snapping wildly in the wind, and nonchalantly admits that he absolutely packed up their boss's kit. He spits out the confession, like tossing yesterday's trash. The color instantly drains from every single mercenary's face as the brutal truth sets in. They rolled up acting like apex predators, only to realize they just trapped themselves inside a blender. A raging vortex of crimson flames erupts around Zhongli, his eyes burning straight through the smoke. He coldly informs them that sadly, they are taking this little secret straight to the grave since corpses can't snitch. Our guy is gearing up to permanently downsize the blood wolf payroll, channeling a molten sphere the size of a compact SUV. Zhongli hurls it deep into the enemy range. With zero hesitation, the forest immediately morphs into an absolute crematorium. As the blast incinerates everything it touches, one unfortunate thug becomes a human torch, screeching in pure agony. Turns out, fancy metal plates are entirely useless when your opponent literally microwaves the oxygen. Qindong's arrogant smirk melts into sheer dread, howling that they are facing total annihilation. Honestly, my guy figured that out way too late. Panicking, the leftover goons finally make a smart play. Slamming their knees into the dirt and pleading for mercy, they try bartering with cash, legendary loot, literally anything to keep breathing. Qindong collapses, looking absolutely nauseous. Not only did this teenager vaporize his elite team, he proudly admitted to catching the Viet target. Now the mercenary captain's mind is spiraling, torn between saving his own skin and knowing his boss desperately needs this intel. But Zhongli shuts down the pity party immediately. Spotting their high-tier weapons, he smoothly questions where they looted such premium hardware. Cue these absolute morons spilling their guts, like they are trying to score a reduced sentence. They actually flex about abducting silver-tier adventurers and extorting their relatives for crazy cash. One ball bozo simply cannot shut his trap. He openly brags about slaughtering a dude who fought back, stripping his bronze plates, and gleefully mentions how gorgeous the victim's pregnant wife was. The other psychopath is literally smiling while explaining that she chose suicide rather than surrendering to them. Hearing this, Zhongli simply whispers, "Is that so?" Radiating a killing intent so it practically flash freezes the entire swamp. He locks eyes with the doomed squad and delivers the ultimate death sentence. "You all deserve to die honestly." Most valid team wipe in manhwa history I've ever seen. In this entire series period, smash cut to the Golden Dragon Pavilion, where Zhongli is already on a video call with Lin, looking completely unbothered, like he just took out the garbage and is casually doing his taxes. Lin checks in on the gem crafting, and our boy just flashes this smooth little smirk. Going great, he lies, zeroing in on his actual agenda. He drops the bomb. He needs a deep dive on the Blood Wolf mercenaries. The sheer audacity to ask so politely, while literally standing in the middle of a slaughterhouse, is absolute menace behavior. The camera slowly pans out, revealing this absolute madman chatting on FaceTime, while surrounded by knocked out Blood Wolf goons scattered across the dirt like tossed aside plastic toys. When he casually asks Lin to expedite his request, the poor guy practically gags on his own breath. That crew's name rings a massive bell. The pure, unadulterated dread washing over Lin's face screams everything you need to know about the Blood Wolves. Terrifying street cred. Snapping back to reality, he orders John Lee to sit tight while he deploys his contacts. Say what you want, but Lin is a top-tier pro and pros always deliver. Lin practically begs him not to do anything reckless. John Lee just shrugs and drops that he got jumped in the wild and already wiped the floor, with them treating a life or death ambush like a slightly annoying grocery run. A bruised up merc eating dirt nearby helpfully coughs up a name. Their squad captain was Chendong. Lin's internal alarm bells go off. Chendong is the literal vice captain of the crew, a fully fledged bronze tier heavyweight. He instantly hits the panic button, warning that these lunatics will definitely strike back. So what is the endgame here? John Lee casually mentions their heavy hitter caps out at peak bronze, making it clear he can completely obliterate that threat. His actual nightmare, innocent bystanders catching strays. So he is officially choosing violence and striking first. Lin is totally fanboying over this, hyping Jiang Li up as an absolute legend of loyalty and justice. Then he starts spilling the tea, dumping every single file he is on the Blood Wolves. Seriously, this chubby dude is basically the CIA, wearing a cute little bow tie. The gang boasts 6 bronze tier killers, while the grunts all scale above black iron. As for Chendong, he was specifically dispatched to figure out who absolutely wrecked the boss's youngest kid. Lin straight up admits that tanking that many bronze elites simultaneous would be a brutal nightmare, even for our overpowered MC. The final boss of his crew, a dude named Lai Xiao Tian. Lock that name into your brain right now, because he is going to matter big time. Li Xiaoshan is a level 39 Greystone Knight, running a pure tank build, and Lin makes it crystal clear trying to out-endure this human meat shield is a guaranteed game over. The guy is essentially a maxed out raid boss, hacking an infinite HD bar. Lin reveals the wolves are currently camped deep in the mountains, promising Zhang Wei a solid window to gear up. But our boy instantly zeroes in. Why are they out there? Turns out somebody hired them. The Wang family. Zhang Li practically short-circuits. He instantly recognizes them as one of the elite 4 Wang dynasty's ruling. Jin Lin quickly talks him off the ledge. It is strictly a freelance gate, not some deep-rooted blood pact. The Wang family's oldest heir just awakened as a star beast master, and they are blowing absurd amounts of cash, funding merc squads to hunt down Earth Dragon eggs for his starter pack. This right here is where Lin upgrades from sketchy data broker to a true day one homie. He completely volunteers to back Zhong Li play against the wolves, dragging him back to the pavilion to get totally decked out. Zhong Li locks in without a second thought. They march straight into the Golden Dragon Pavilion's fusion chamber, and the vibes are pure in-game territory. A colossal stone wizard statue dominates the center of a blindingly neon ritual circle. Lin breaks down the meta. Skill slots are highly capped, meaning trash tier spells eventually become useless. To fix that, the pavilion engineered this exact chamber, allowing mages to smash existing spells together to birth something entirely new. It is literally a secret crafting tree. Nobody bothered to teach Zhong Li until right this second. There is a major catch though. You only get one shot. Fused skills are locked forever, so you better not mess up the build. Lin tosses him the fusion manual, asking if he is a first-timer. Obviously he is, considering this absolute unit has been relying on pure, unadulterated muscle up to this point. Young Li opts to test the waters with the basics, aggressively shoving his D-tier fireball and D-tier arc magic straight into the glowing circle. The system registers both inputs instantly, functioning exactly like a vending machine built for pure violence. Boom. Out pops completely fresh D-tier skill lightning ball, practically screaming with volatile purple electricity, standing dead center in the magical array, looking like a kid unlocking the ultimate cheat code. Zhong Li realizes the output. It's exactly like firing both spells simultaneously. The absolute game changer. It only burns a single skill slot instead of 2. The maniacal grin stretching across his face says it all. He gives Lin a massive shout out for the upgrade, and the leaks immediately offering to cover the tab. After dropping off his latest haul of gear, Lin pauses, hinting that they have one final piece of business to hash out. Here is the catch. Embedding a gold tier gem is straight up high stakes gambling. Even a legend like Master Wang cannot promise it will not blow up in their faces. Snagging the fangs from the Thunder Crocodile leader would skyrocket those odds, but that specific swamp boss has been ducking everyone like it owes them rent. Linen just chuckles, completely one step ahead, right as a gorgeous attendant strolls in, gripping a mysterious pulsating purple artifact. Pause the video right here guys, because the artist absolutely cooked with this girl's design. She is literally built to break the internet. Honestly, my heart is racing. But back to the plot. That glowing item is ultra rare. Chum specifically crafted to drag our reptilian coward out from the mud. Master Wang originally tasked Lin with tracking this down, but since the old man already evolved into the gold tier, the beast would instantly sniff out his aura and dip. That leaves the perfect window for Zhong Li to step up to the plate. Utterly hyped, Zhongli declares the guy an absolute legend. Lin then breaks down the math, proving that the blood wolf drops our boy just traded in easily pays for the whole operation, with massive stacks of cash to spare, meaning our chaotic protagonist is literally getting rich off the exact same haters who tried to jump him earlier. Lin hits him with a solid good luck while Zhongli tightly clutches the lure. Raw violet electricity crackles across his knuckles and a wicked feral grin spreads across his face. He has not been this pumped in ages. Our guy has a brutal hit list, and he is about to cross off the ultimate prize. Cut straight back to the murky depths of the Thundermark. Zhongli chalks the glowing trap into the sludge and casually slaughters the local mobs, just killing time until the main event arrives. Suddenly the murky depths begin boiling over, sparking with erratic lethal currents. A colossal shadow shifts beneath the surface. Instantly, a blinding pillar of raw lightning rips upward, violently tearing the sky in half. Whoever swallowed that trap is absolutely furious about the rude awakening. Yet staring down certain death, Zhongli's eyes practically glow with euphoria. The wait is officially over. Towering above the muck stands the apex predator, the level 33 Thunder Crocodile leader. This absolute unit burst from the wetlands, a terrifying blend of armored scales and pure atmospheric wrath. Zhongli smirks, mocking the sneaky reptile for playing hide and seek so well. He spins his weapon into a battle stance. The raid has begun. The monster rockets forward, snapping jaws massive enough to crush a heavy-duty truck, but our protagonist does not flinch, parrying the strike perfectly with his shadow-fang staff. The weapon flares with intense violet light as he goes toe-to-toe with a walking natural disaster. Instantly triggering his light body technique, he vanishes into a blur of speed, vaulting high over the behemoth's spine. As if physics simply stopped applying to him, he slams his staff downward with such crushing momentum that a seasoned Iron Tier fighter would get flattened. Trying to tank the brutal collision, blasts craters through the muddy terrain. Hanging in the air, Zhongli stares dead into the creature's glowing eyes and casually praises its excellent taste in enemies. Easily the most unhinged trash talk you could drop on a Swamp King. He yells out that it picked the wrong victim today, instantly unleashing a savage hailstorm of frozen daggers directly into its thick armor, flexing on this beast like a sweaty speedrunner, destroying a final boss. The giant reptile screeches in agony, violently whipping its massive frame as the frost bites deep. Violent surges of blue plasma explode from its scales. This creature refuses to die without taking someone with it. The raw clash of freezing, magic, and high-voltage energy detonates, wiping out the entire arena. In a blinding, chaotic flash, our boy narrowly dodges the Grim Reaper by spamming his light armor technique at the absolute last microsecond. Yet despite the shield, he is gasping for air. A sneaky electrified tail would have nearly deleted his entire health bar from a massive blind spot. Shaking it off, he announces playtime is over. Twin gargantuan spears of frost materialize, swirling around his body in a lethal blizzard. He aggressively fires both directly at the monster's skull. The ice javelins crash into the beast back to back, exploding with deafening artillery-level booms. But the absolute unit eats the damage. Its prehistoric eye is practically indestructible. Zhongli quickly runs the calculations. Hammering away at its shell is completely useless against this dinosaur, since knocking on the front door failed. Our wonderfully deranged hero chooses to breach it from the inside out, flashing a manic glare that screams pure intent. He sprints head first into the monster's gaping, razor-filled maw, palming a blazing sphere of inferno. Because diving into the belly of the beast is apparently just a casual flex for an absolute madman like him. He brutally shoves his staff down its windpipe, screaming out a sassy delivery for his special package. He then triggers a point-blank, volcanic eruption inside its gullet. Without a doubt, this is the most foul, disrespectful finisher ever witnessed in the entire history of Manhwa boss fights. The concentrated flames detonate straight into the reptile's brain pan, forcing out a gut-wrenching screech. Spoiler alert, thick plating cannot save you when a nuke goes off inside your throat. Without missing a beat, Zhongli executes a heavy sweeping slash, easily slicing through the now fragile armor. While the behemoth is still choking on its own roasted tonsils, he immediately pops the sluggish technique, freezing the staggered giant completely in its tracks. With its armor breached, he refuses to give this boss an inch to retreat or regenerate. The crocodile violently stiffens, fully paralyzed and ready for the slaughter. Once that paralysis debuff locks in, this monster is absolutely cooked, literally, because getting deep fried from the inside out while totally frozen is a brutal way for a boss to log off. Zhongli just towers over this glitching reptile, radiating pure lightning, and hits us with the physics lesson. Lightning amps up fire blasts. The fact that this gator literally opened its jaws and served up its weak spot on a silver platter is hilarious. He jams his staff straight down the monster's throat and thanks it for the 5-star service, treating a life or death boss fight like a trip to the drive-thru. Then he triggers the kill shot point blank, The blast shreds the creature's internal organs into confetti. With one ruthless strike, double level up triggers, instantly rocketing our guy straight to 127th. But wait, check this out. Smashing bone, spear and ice arrow together births the ice lance. This nasty new toy keeps that massive single target nuke from the arrow but slaps on the crippling debuff from the spear. The craziest part, it only eats up a single ability slot. Bro is literally min-maxing his stats while the boss's body is still warm. His brain is already churning out fresh combo ideas because that fusion chamber basically handed this absolute menace a blank check to craft the ultimate god tier wipeout build. The Thunder Crocodile just lays their jaw permanently unhinged. Jianli stares at the loot drop, shrugs and decides to just rip the fangs straight from its skull. Seeing this regular-sized dude bullying a dinosaur carcass is peak comedy. Cut to later that evening. We find Zhongli chilling on a bench outside Master Wang's forge. In Rosetown, sparks are flying, hammers are crashing, and this absolute madman is literally snoring. Hey, when you spend your Tuesdays soloing raid bosses, you earn your beauty sleep. Bam! The workshop doors kick open. A shirtless, sweaty Wang Yan bursts out, hyping up his creation, grinning like a blacksmith who just forged Excalibur, and physically cannot keep it a secret. John Lee wakes up asking for the verdict, and Wang Yan's smile gets insanely wide, confirming the embedding process was flawless. Then the specs pop up. Enter the Golden Abyss staff. Gold tier 450 magical penetration, plus an exclusive passive named Demon Mark that tags an enemy, guaranteeing your next attack deals quadruple damage. Young Lee nervously rubs the back of his neck, confessing he was a total noob at butchering monsters. That perfectly explains why those gator teeth arrived looking like they got hacked out by a blind guy with a rusty spoon. But Wang Yan brushes off the horrible prep work. The staff's base stats are already completely busted, and those fangs got the job done perfectly anyway. He passes the glowing weapon over like a dad handing off his newborn, gripping the Golden Abyss staff, its ruby core bleeding a sinister red into the dark sky. Jiangli mutters that his setup is finally complete. The icy chill in his tone. Yeah, that is the sound of a guy fully loaded and ready to start a bloodbath. Like clockwork, Len's hologram flashes onto the screen. The two guys share a look. The timing is incredibly cinematic. Jiangli taps accept immediately, because when your shadow broker rings you up past midnight, you know things are getting serious. Lin doesn't hesitate, dropping massive intel. The Blood Wolf Syndicate is breaching the Earth Dragon's lair. Tomorrow morning coordinates are already in the inbox. Jiangli nods his thanks, realizing his information network is worth every single penny. His pupils narrow into absolute daggers as he whispers, "It is time to permanently retire the Blood Wolf crew." And that expression right there is the exact look of a dude who spent 24 hours grinding for gear just to permanently erase an entire guild from the server. Imagine being a Blood Wolf right now. Big yikes. Let's shift gears to the Blood Wolf forward operating base out in the Blackstone Mountains, where a scout just dropped a total bombshell of awful news. The guy absorbing this disaster is none other than the Guildmaster Li Jiaqin. Bro is dripped out in heavy red armor. His face looks like he just saw the Grim Reaper. His right-hand man Jian Si spells it out. The third boss radioed in that he tracked down Zhao Kang's killer, engaged the target, and then flatlined. Turns out the culprit is just some rookie spellcaster. Lei Xiaqin's expression instantly sours, and he starts snarling furious. That low-level magic user has the audacity to flex on his elite squad. You can see the pure venom in his stare. Bro just lost 2 lieutenants to a literal random. But wait, here is the plot twist, because instead of throwing a tantrum and rushing out for a revenge arc like a standard NPC villain, he hits the brake. He declares that securing his silver rank promotion takes priority, and his vendetta goes on the back burner. It is incredibly ruthless, sure, but honestly it is the first big brain move we have seen from an antagonist in this entire series. He screams for a full guild mobilization, and instantly armored boots are stomping through the dirt. When the boss barks an order, his soldiers do not hesitate. The Blood Wolf army is gearing up for war. They deploy an entire battalion of geared up mercs, itching for a bloodbath naturally. This is the exact military-grade meat grinder Zhongli is about to stroll right into, completely solo like an absolute unit. The heavy formation pushes through the canyon, with Xiaoshan leading the charge. Honestly, this flex would be terrifying if we did not already know the Grim Reaper was breathing down their necks. Speak of the devil, our boy is already stalking them from the canopy. He moves like an apex predator, zeroing in on a flock of clueless sheep. Zhongli hugs the bark, scoping out the massive convoy rolling by, locking eyes on my Xiaoshan to confirm the target. because our guy is actually doing thorough recon before wiping a whole syndicate off the map. Meanwhile, Xiao Tian kicks off his cinematic villain monologue, gassing up his boys for all their blood and sweat, hyping the fact they finally pinpointed the Earth Dragon Den. Time to bust the vault wide open. This absolute clown has zero clue. He is currently hyping up a walking graveyard. He swears on his life that once he hits silver rank, he will personally butcher whoever clapped his men. A phenomenally bold flex to drop, when the exact guy who did it is chilling 30 feet away. Xiao Tian dials the anime antagonist vibes to 11, promising to make their attackers endure absolute torture, swearing he will always protect his ride or die brothers. And look, the speech actually goes incredibly hard, assuming you ignore the tiny detail that his words expire in exactly 20 minutes. The entire platoon gobbles it up, screaming for their boss with weapons raised. They genuinely believe they are marching toward glory, instead of walking directly into a wood chipper. Main John Lee lurking in the shadows. Our protagonist finalizes the ultimate galaxy brain play. Shadow their movements, let them tank the Earth Dragon boss fight, and once they are clinging to 1 HP, wipe the lobby. That is not just tactics. That is aggressive financial planning. The Blood Wolves breach the cavern and immediately lock eyes with an absolute unit of a beast that makes the Thunder Crocodile look like a golden retriever. This titan is gargantuan, plated in pitch black obsidian armor, sporting demonic crimson eyes. And Jiaoshan actually has the nerve to label it intimidating, which is easily the wildest understatement of the century. The boss screams to attack, and the entire mercenary syndicate swarms the beast like a flawless MMO raid party. Hate on them all you want, their synergy is elite, but the Earth Dragon responds by bulldozing through their front line, like a runaway train plowing through cardboard. Instantly all that sweater from 5 seconds ago completely vanishes. A random grunt catches a lethal tail whip, and the crunching sound alone proves the lethal difficulty spike is totally legit. The backline spellcasters dump their entire mana bars, nuking the dragon skull with blistering fireballs, while the vanguard desperately holds the aggro. Pat to hand it to them, this crew possesses genuine combat mechanics. A rogue-class killer sprints in under the radar, wielding a neon blue dagger, hunting for a blind spot on the beast flanked. He drops a blistering combo of strikes so violently fast the steel leaves neon after images, grinding against the reptilian armor with absolute maximum effort. Yet, after dumping his ultimate, the masked striker realizes he barely scratched the pain. The pure despair washing over his face proves this raid boss was fundamentally designed to be broken. The titan aggressively spins, detonating a massive tail swipe into a guy chest, launching a fully grown warrior across the cavern like a discarded action figure. Oh, the boss is officially triggered now. Void black energy spirals around its colossal frame, winding up a devastating area attack that absolutely nobody wants to catch. It craters the earth with a mammoth claw stomp. A vanguard barely raises his blade in time, his skeleton vibrating violently from absorbing kinetic force that should have instantly vaporized him. Enter the MVP Xiaoshan, popping his greystone barrier to physically eat the dragon. Follow-up strike is raw. Adulterated brute strength honestly commands major respect right here. He corrals the entire squad behind his glowing geometric shield, screaming at them to take cover while he violently sponges back-to-back heavy blows. And look, I have to admit, this dude is hard carrying his lobby. Xiao Tian barks out that he is pushing the offensive, ordering the platoon to wait for his ping, because apparently playing the impenetrable tank role simply was not enough for his ego. This freak of nature wants to be the primary damage dealer too. Popping his giant charge ability, his muscle mass violently explodes, instantly launching him like a ballistic missile with his pole arm locked dead onto the monster's skull. The tungsten tip violently detonates against the reptile jawbone, blasting seismic shockwave straight through the cavern walls. Because this absolute madman genuinely just stick the mythical beast like it owed him back taxes. The entire underground arena quivers as Xiao Tian physically bulldozes the titan backward through solid bedrock. The sheer kinetic scale of this clash is phenomenally epic, especially for a dude who is literally minutes away from losing his life savings. The sidelines are screaming his praises, absolutely losing their minds over their captain practically soloing a raid boss, and objectively they are completely right to be hyped. But this premature victory lap is about to age like milk left in the sun. Xiaoshan screams at his squad to stop admiring the view and focus their firepower on the optical nerves, because even while brawling a prehistoric titan, this man physically cannot stop micromanaging his coworker. That massive crimson eye eats up the entire screen. And trust me, this beast is not terrified in the slightest. It is absolutely livid, and the Blood Wolves are about to find out exactly what goes down when you poke an elite raid boss right in its soft spot. Blowing spell circles pop off everywhere as the casters and the serpent just start throwing hands, sending violet shockwaves and arcane missiles crashing into each other mid-flight, sparking a neon fireworks display bright enough to blind an entire arena. The wyvern tags Yao Chen with a flawless strike, launching him sliding across the dirt, his heavy plating splinters from the insane force, proving this monster is totally done playing games, while Xiaoxin gets absolutely yeeted into the cavern rock. And for the very first time, the dude actually looks rattled, barely keeping a grip on his heavy blade. He yells at his squad to keep the pressure up, knowing that if they slack off for even 1 second, this scaly nightmare is going to completely wipe their team. You can hear the pure panic in his throat. But right at that moment, the ceiling of the cavern glows a deep amber, as literal blazing meteors start dropping from the roof. That is definitely not friendly fire from the mercenary casters. Xiaoxin loses his mind, shouting about who triggered the blaze right before reality smacks him in the face. Ambush incoming. Jiangli drops from the shadows, dripping in pure magma like a walking tactical nuke, casually throwing shade that these mercs have some decent coordination. But it is a massive bummer, because every single one of them is getting packed up today, and there he stands, our absolute goat Jiang Li, flexing that glowing silver hair against a backdrop of pure destruction, giving off ultimate raid boss energy that literally nobody in this dungeon was ready to handle. He announces the 0% survival rate and dives straight into the meat grinder with his weapon sparking, because this absolute menace perfectly timed his third-party crash for when the squad was running on 1 health. From fighting a monster, the level of disrespect is simply unmatched. A frozen spear tears across the zone like a heat-seeking rocket, zeroing in right on the mercenary backline. Some random grunt shoots a bolt at our guy, and it literally deflects off his barrier. Technique like tossing a spitball at a titanium vault. Bro did not even blink. The surviving fighters panic and pivot toward him, screeching about how some random kid had the audacity to jump their crew. But the absolute terror in their tone exposes the truth. They know they are completely cooked. Xiaoxin makes a desperate tactical pivot, ordering Yao Chen to hold the aggro on the beast, while the rest of them try to stall this teenager. And the second-in-command rushes our protagonist, throwing everything but the kitchen sink. Zhang Jia channels pure crash-out energy, swinging his sword wildly, yet Zhang Li just brushes off every single slash like he is casually flicking dust off his shoulder. Our boy steps into his personal space and lands a counter so crisp that the dude's whole frame folds from the shockwave. Weight classes mean absolutely nothing when a lightweight challenger hits like a runaway bulldozer. Now Zhang Zhao is seeing red, flaring up with a crimson aura violently sparking across his skin, shrieking that he is risking it all because this kid just publicly humiliated an executive officer right in front of his goons. He roots his stance and explodes forward, just radiating pure murderous aura from head to toe. He crashes his blade downward, shouting at the kid to drop dead, and for 1 split second you almost think he is going to land a solid blow. The heavy strike slams home, illuminating the entire cavern with the shock, but Zhongli casually eats the damage with the shields, without moving a single millimeter. Xiaoxin spots a tiny window while our guy is busy blocking and dashes in with a twisted smirk, genuinely believing he caught the prodigy slipping, trash-talking him for acting so untouchable. He signals the whole squad to jump him, since spamming numbers is literally the only strategy the frauds have left. But the grunts attempting to form up are practically shaking in their boots since the insane cast speed and massive aura leaking off. This teenager straight up break the laws of physics for a rookie sorcerer. Zhang Li just chills in the eye of the storm, boxed in by bruised up thugs, and coldly drops the hardest line, saying they do not even need his name. They only need to memorize one simple fact. He is the Grim Reaper, clocking them out, and he casually delivers that flex while blasting freezing artillery in a 360-degree radius like a literal force of nature. Combining that icy dialogue with those insane graphics easily makes this his most cold-blooded moment in the series. A frozen javelin tags Yao Chen square in the chest, and a hulking tank physically staggers while his crew yells for their boss. Taking a hit from the blind spot, Yao Chen gets his wrist guard clipped by a glacier shard, and the sheer disbelief on his face is pure gold, as his heavy defense just shattered from an attack that some low-level caster should not even have the stats for. Our protagonist mocks him about holding the so-called Greystone Knight title, heavily hyped up for his impenetrable defense, and the fact that he dropped his exact gamer tag proves this kid studied the meta before pulling up to completely wipe his account. The gears finally click in Xiaoxin's brain. This teenager tracked them, bypassed their shields, and is undeniably the exact same prodigy who flatlined Xiao Yan and Chendong. The reality check drops like a brick, turning a random gang into a straight-up revenge match. Xiaoxin loudly announces that, since the kid basically gift-wrapped himself to them, they are wiping the slate clean and ending this blood feud right now. Dude literally sounds entirely convinced he is going to win, which is honestly hilarious considering he is getting completely washed right now. Zhongli matches his vibe perfectly, tells the guy they are on the exact same wavelength, and ignites a massive glowing runic circle right beneath his boots. It makes the entire battlefield pulse toxic emerald. Without warning, the solid rock beneath the blood wolf quad melts into a sludge bubbling bob. and they are instantly waist deep in the muck, absolutely panicking, until Xiaoshan clicks the pieces together and screams out swamp technique. Zhongli hits them with a cold smirk, promising the show just started, before manifesting a sparkling sphere of electricity, packing enough raw voltage to power a massive metropolis, because this absolute madman is out here, weaving dual incantations like a producer dropping bass tracks. Xiao Tian is practically short-circuiting, trying to process this, losing his mind, yelling that dual casting is straight up impossible, while his lackey screeches that the plasma sphere is reaching critical mass. Take one wild guess who is currently marinating in a giant puddle of highly conductive mud. Xiao Tian spits some trash talk about cheap parlor tricks and plants his feet to tank the hit, since his massive ego physically restricts him from backing down against a dude sitting half his level. The thunderbolt goes nuclear directly on his skull, and his defensive barrier explodes like cheap glass hitting concrete. That nasty cocktail of marsh fluid and raw voltage stack the damage modifiers way past his armor threshold. Yingqi catches the shockwave full force, locking up completely, as pure plasma shreds through his gear, and one agonizing shriek later, the second in command is officially lobbed out. Xiao Tian stumbles through the smoke and sparks, growling about how the Dragon Ray already tanked his stamina, and this random kid is leeching his final drops of mana. 0 options left. He finally hits the panic button, triggering absolute defense. He summons a gargantuan boulder fortress that violently breaches the earth like a newborn volcano, with jagged ice and granite fusing together to lock him inside an unbreakable vault. The earth and dome snap shut, and we are talking colossal scale here. A literal one-man bunker, designed for cowering while the apocalypse rages. Outside, squatting in the dark, Zhao Tian runs the math, betting everything that Zhongli is currently running on empty. Plus, this bunker stance passively regenerates health, meaning if he just turtles up and stalls, he can pop giant descent and wipe the floor with him. They'd brain play for a guy on his last legs. Outside the rock tomb, Zhongli just chills and roasts Zhao Tian for playing the cowardly turtle strategy, because the supposedly terrifying Alpha of the Blood Wolves is dead-ass camping inside a pebble, praying his problems magically vanish. A wicked grin slides onto Zhongli's face as he casually drops the bomb that he saved this exact combo for this specific second. He pops Demon Mark straight from his Golden Abyss staff. You guys remember this broken passive right? Quadruple damage multiplier on the very next cast. This right here is exactly why he min-maxed this build. He levels the weapon directly at the granite dome, blasting a singular hyper-focused laser straight into the impenetrable defense, because pure thickness means literally nothing when your magic penetration stat sits at 450, and your damage is multiplied by 4. The holy beam vaporizes the granite like wet tissue paper, and the resulting shockwave blinds the entire underground cavern. Boom, and just like that, the Blood Wolf mercenary squad gets permanently banned from the server. Are we witnessing the most savage solo wipe in Manhwa history? Honestly, it might be the top contender. Flash forward a couple days. We are chilling in Rose Down, the Jinwangbao Pavilion, where Lin is giving Zhongli the post-battle debrief. Search parties found the Blood Wolf clan completely liquidated inside the Earth Dragon Cave. Street chatter mentions a mysterious spellcaster rocking a dark cloak, and Lin hits him with a reality check that he is about to trend globally. She guarantees his real face stayed hidden, but considering how many locals the wolves bullied, half the continent wants to throw a parade for the guy who permanently logged them out. Oh, and the internet already crowned him with the title Black Mage. That is his official street cred now. Zhongli just glares at the headline, having an existential crisis, realizing his little stealth mission just made him a certified icon. He drops a heavy sigh, praying this cloud does not drag him into more drama. But Lin just giggles at his delusion. They both know main character syndrome does not have a mute button, and right on cue the doors get kicked open. 2 absolute stunners strode into the room, instantly demanding Zhongli join their squad for the upcoming professional trial competition. Give me a sec, guys, because the purple-haired queen in the white fit is actively destroying my ability to function normally. The studio animated her proportions with pure lethal intent, and the fire orange-haired girl screaming about calling dibs first is just adding fuel to the fire. Our boy John Lee is trapped between 2 titans, while the ginger aggressively interrogates him about his history with the purple-haired girl. Meanwhile, this clueless dude is sweating bullets, giggling awkwardly, while 2 certified baddies are ready to throw hands over who gets to be his duo. Our zero-risk protagonist is completely malfunctioning right now, and frankly saying bro. He nervously scratches his head, muttering that catching heat is basically his destiny. At this point, facts, because the Black Mage literally transformed from a lone wolf carrot to the most exclusive draft pick on the server, and the official tournament has not even dropped yet.